the YouTube stream. And then I will begin my work. I'll work hard, and work diligently, and all will be well. Do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. 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 Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Good. Got the Twitch chat open. Kick chat open. This time I'll try to make. Oh, hello, Presville. Alright, my goal this stream is to not miss any YouTube chats, like I usually do. We can only hope. Because, you know, our only hope for a future is Francis E. Deck. Donate a typewriter today for your only chance at a future. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you know, it means you're sane. We had it all. Ooh. 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 All right. Who wants to hear and learn about Max Steel? I do.
For younger demographics. I've said it many times before, but I'll say it many times again.
Querrieoh says.
Media method, whereas some
Edward.
the Pokemon method. It was all a certain way to look at launching a new property. The biggest thing at the time was not just having a cartoon, it was having a cartoon that would also push and sell video games, books, merch, but most importantly, toys. The cartoon to action figure pipeline was a big determining factor on if your property was going to stick around and make any sort of impact on a kid's attention span. Now, to be fair, this isn't a surefire 100% working all the time method.
What am I looking at for today? Well, clean up that other wing, do the face, and I'll see how detailed I need to make the face. That's still a little bit up in the air.
Mattel working on a line of action figures that would have this cool action spy theming to them, while at the same time, Mattel contacted Netter Digital Entertainment.
Which one is the tool? Okay.
TV series surrounding a young secret agent could be like. So now, in 1999, the Max Steel toy line would hit stores.
Need to clean it up. Need to clean it up.
Sporty edge that the character had to him.
Captain Price Ethescan
Whoa.
3730 says.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Captain Price.
Captain Price Ethescan 3730 says. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty okay. I smell a bit like smoke. I was playing with fire today. Went pretty well. I finally reached that point where it got hot enough that, I don't know if it's called like pyrolysis. There's this interesting phenomenon with fires where as the fire gets going and it gets hotter and hotter, the ignition point gets lower. So then you can add, you know, larger and larger fuel and it actually ignites instead of, you know, just like smoldering and sadness. I finally got to that point where like even holding a stick near the fire would cause the stick to catch on fire instead of just suffering. That was fun. And then the hard part was putting out the fire. I kind of did not want to go out, and I didn't want to dump water on top of it. I wanted to kind of harvest the remaining heat to try and dry out some of the non-seasoned wood I'd collected. But I kept igniting everything. It was a very ignious boy. Eventually, I had to smother it with a wet shirt and the grill top because I don't have a fire pit. I just use an old charcoal grill. The wobbly legs. I may be risking self-combustion in a way or two. Alright. There's no point worrying too much about the wings, because, look, can I drive wings? No. As long as it gets the point across, and I don't think this part is having the right silhouette, so... It's better that way.
Life now becomes a balancing act of still being a 19-year-old, having to deal with college, his extreme sports career path, and his
I think I liked Max Steel because there was a scene where he really got hurt. It, like, my classification of whether I liked a cartoon or not was how high the stakes were. Generator Rex really
Ginny
got me.
says,
Whoa.
Hey, love your content. I will like to join you next stream with some friends.
Scam.
Add me on Discord, Bentley 513.
Ew, he said, so I'll get through. Oh, scam filters. What a scam, what a shame.
Basically gets replaced with another character named Kat after she gets a promotion and walks off of the show in the second season. Dr. Roberto
We had it all.
everything when it comes to the tech with Josh, as well as monitors how everything is going. Josh and Bertie becoming great friends. Speaking of friends, outside of his new saving the world type of job, he would usually spend his time with Pete and Laura, both as a trio at school or in general just hanging out, as well as alone time with Laura because, well, Pete...
Let's see, how do I...
all of the time, you know. Now, because of Josh's new secret life, there is a clear divide that happens in his relationships to both Laura and Pete, both going in separate directions when certain issues come to a head. And Josh's life is now split, where he keeps the Max Steel side of himself secret and tries to balance out everything separately, which of course leads to plenty of problems. There's also a bit of visual difference for Josh as well, where he usually would have brown eyes and blonde hair, but when he's Max Steel, his look definitely changes and he now has blue eyes with brown hair. The main big bad guy group that Max is often up against is called Dredd, and you'll never believe the name of the leader of this evil organization, John Dredd. Underneath John Dredd are a few tougher than your average villain of the week type of villains, like who we first originally saw, Psycho. Aside from them, there are a whole slew of bad guys that Max and company have to deal with, and all of this is pretty standard for what you'd expect from a show like this, especially one that would want to sell you on getting the toys, the real moneymaker for Mattel. Much like how the toys themselves would have different series and styles and waves, the series would kind of go through its own set of differences behind the scenes with its issues. After Netter Digital Entertainment was there to establish the animated series, they ended up going bankrupt in 2000, leading to Foundation Imaging coming in and continuing work on Max Steel. But even then, they were heading to bankruptcy themselves. So after the first 2 seasons of the show that were on Kids WB, which consisted of 26 episodes in total, the series would later have none other than Mainframe Entertainment come on board to do the 3rd season, which would now be on Cartoon.
Thought I had already banned Discord, if not.
I mentioned shows like Reboot and Transformers in the first place, and that's because they were made by Mainframe. So in having the OG people who were spearheading the CG animated space, they utilized something that they would already be familiar with thanks to Beast Wars, and definitely with Reboot, but mostly with Beast Wars, and that's incorporating the toys into the series. But after 9 episodes, that was it for season 3, and for the Max Steel brand in general. Or was it?
Max Steel, all new next weekend. Max Steel.
In the US, Max Steel as a brand actually wasn't doing too well despite having an initial strong response from the toys when they first released.
Okay. Dealt with. Sorry for the lack of anything. I don't know why that message didn't, well, I mean, it was a new type of scam message, but it was a scam message nonetheless.
Produced direct-to-DVD movies and shorts that would start coming out in 2004, with a total of 9 films releasing all the way up until 2012, all mainly for this audience. Now, 2012 would prove to be a pivotal year for Max Steel, but before we get to why that is, let me mention something pretty cool when it comes to Max Steel, and it being so popular in Latin America. This is Big Jim, another line of toys created by Mattel throughout the 1970s and 80s. Big Jim would end up having a presence in Latin America as well, but going under a different name, that being Kid Acero. Mattel's subsidiary for Latin America for this this, Sipsa was able to do a lot with the Kid Acero idea, as this would turn into a decently successful franchise that focused on Kid Acero and his dual life as someone who competes in sports competitions all over the world, and as someone who is a secret agent and superhero and, that all sounds pretty familiar, right? Well, for any Spanish-speaking viewers of the video, I am sure you pointed out one other fact that I purposefully didn't mention yet. The name Kid Acero translates to Kid Steel, which basically makes this the original Max Steel. So now fast forward back to Max Steel being created, Mattel actually had a plan to discuss this in a pretty unique way, at least for the time, as this would be one of the first times a toy company would integrate a connection between two originally different properties like this. They used the similarities in a tongue-in-cheek way to where it was revealed in an episode of Max Steel that Josh's dad was named Jim and was given the name Big Jim McGrath in reference to who he was as Josh was learning more about him, which can now make the quote-unquote original Max Steel, that being Big Jim aka Kid Acero, the father of Josh McGrath aka Max Steel, which is pretty cool. There are a lot of little similarities between the toys for Max Steel and the older Big Jim toys, and even a connection to the character of Josh's adoptive father, Jefferson Smith, possibly being a nod to Big Jeff from the Big Jim toy line. Now, these toy lines are connected or have this manufactured generational connection that gives each of them a little more life for collectors and fans of each to have fun with. Man, aren't toys just neat? And also take up too much space. Help me. Okay, now back to 2012. Max Steel, as it was originally created, was officially at its end after 3 seasons of a show, 9 standalone straight-to-DVD movies, and a whole bunch of toys. What was in style more than ever, however, were aliens, superheroes, and everyone's favorite term, I say sarcastically, reboots. It was time for a total refresh of the Max Steel franchise.
Yeah, this is the crazy
Mattel
part. I've
ended up
never
working with
heard
both
of
Nerdcore
a different
Entertainment and
Max
Fremantle
Steel.
Media Enterprises to completely reimagine this franchise, and by March of
Or
2013,
maybe
the new
no.
version of Max Steel.
Okay, no, this is the one I
wasn't
have
just
watched.
A new look to the characters with a new CG animation style.
Okay, so I haven't watched any of the older ones. I've only seen this exact
Be
version.
brand new. This also applies to the main character. No longer is this Josh McGrath. This is now Max McGrath. So now this new rebooted version of Max Steel would premiere on Disney XD in the US, and thanks to its visual style and overall choices of genre it falls under, it would fit right at home with other programs on Disney Plus like Motor City. Oh wait, that was just canceled in January of 2013 before this show came out. Sorry. I mean other programs like Tron Uprising. Yeah, you know, that's a really good comparison for the vibe of this show that this would be.
I think I've watched Tron Uprising.
Just canceled in January of 2013. Huh. Well, if that's anything to go by, maybe Disney XD wouldn't be the right place for this show to be on. But we'll get back to that in a little bit, I guess. Anyway, what is this new Max Steel all about? Here we start things off by following the new protagonist, 16-year-old Maxwell McGrath, who moves to the town of Copper Canyon with his mom, and all of the usual just moving to a new town stuff starts happening for Maxwell here. He makes some new friends, he makes some new enemies, he starts glowing blue and emitting powerful energy, you know, the usual stuff. On the other side of things happening here, we also get to see that N-Tech exists, and there are these things called Ultralinks that are these sentient aliens made of technology that were meant to bond organic and inorganic matter together, seeking out strong hosts to bond with so they can fuse essentially to become powerful weapons created by one of the bad guys of the series, Machino. Now, after Maxwell has his energy expulsion, N-Tech commander Forge Ferris, who turns out to be Max's uncle, brings him into N-Tech's headquarters to start filling him in on some things like the energy that came out of him, which was turbo energy. And with that being a specific resource the other bad guys would want to get, and I'll get to all of them in a second, Forge tries to figure out how to best protect his nephew from any of the bad guys coming after him. But maybe he won't have to, because in this time of Max learning how to handle these weird powers that he now has, this other Ultralink that N-Tech had captured and was lying dormant for a very long time has now woken up and rushes over to Max. And this Ultralink was known as Steel and has a history with Max's father. father, with it now here going and fusing itself with Max, giving us a transformation sequence that puts Maxwell McGrath and Steel together to create Max Steel. Yeah, you get it. Max Steel is the fusion combo of these two characters, with Max and Steel being two separate entities entirely. Again, lots of changes to what had come before, but I hope that you are noticing a lot of similarities through little details, references, or in other plot details that I'll speak about that makes it really feel like they did just rework a lot of what they already had in the original Max Steel and shifted things around for it to fit for this new version. With these two coming
Drawn
together
by someone who does not know what wings are. To be
Maxwell doesn't know a lot
very
in
clear on
general
the matter.
since he's only a kid and didn't have any involvement in any of this until now, and Steel's memory core was damaged, leading to
Did I
him not
work?
being able to fully recall
No
what happened in
clue.
the past. Now they
I'll
have to
name
learn
the
how to
layer
work together
right
and become some sort of superhero as well as
wing.
uncover their own personal
No,
mysteries
at
from
all.
this point forward.
No, that wouldn't be right, would it? Maybe just right wing, right? What's the opposite of 4?
This Max Steel reboot really
Post
took
wing?
a lot of
I
what
don't
was
know.
working from all of the
Main
other shows from around
wing.
that time that were huge hits, and a lot of the tropes we'd see in big budget
And then-
superhero movies to make
Matrix
this series
says,
feel more dynamic
YouTube
than
chat
ever.
check.
But aside from
Some
the
random
action
dot right
sequences being
here.
turned up a notch to be flashier and show off more of what the original
really don't
series
know what it's
couldn't
about.
do at the time due to
So
animation
hopefully
limitations, the series wanted to
nothing bad
explore
will
the
happen if I
deeper,
delete
more
it.
intricate storytelling side that was definitely there in some aspects of the original series and make it more expansive. All of the characters, both good and bad,
Querrieoh
have
says,
deeper and more personal
Oh.
plot lines that
Algo
connect
Fidius
them
Gray
to the
says,
overall story or
YouTube
other
chat check.
characters in
Well, no, it would be a Twitch
Max
chat
and the
check.
mystery
And now
surrounding
we
his
know that
father
Twitch
and
is
the truth about himself and what
working.
he truly is, all
Hello,
led to some
Gray.
genuinely surprising outcomes.
How
And
does
while
you
this is
be
mostly
today?
Max's story, getting to explore some other interesting avenues like Max's mom and her connection to everything, or how one of NTech's co-founders is Miles Dredd, one of the main antagonists of the
Fidius
show.
Gray says,
It's all really cool.
I does
Plus,
be
we still
does.
get to have this high school
You do be the
teenager side
dude?
of him,
Well,
where he
you're
has his two
alive, and
best
that's
friends,
all that one
Sydney
could
and
matter.
Kirby, as we get to see how they get
All one
involved
could
in the
hope
story, or just
for.
through their general friend group dynamics. It's nice.
I know,
and
whenever
imagine
someone
that
asks me how I'm
really
doing at
really
work,
well for the
I kind of
genre.
always
And
kind
you
of say
may
the
have noticed I
cliche
said the
thing,
name
I'm
Dredd,
5
which
feet
in the
above
original
ground.
series, there was the main bad guy,
Har, har, har.
John Dredd, who ran the
I know.
organization Dredd.
Better
but
than
this
6 feet
Dredd
underground.
here is spelled differently, and his first name is Miles. But this is something we see a lot here in the 2013 series, and that's a retooling of previous characters, with some
I
more
wanna
examples
sharpen
like the other two
this
NTech
right
people
here
that
just
we
to
see
match the
aside
other
from Miles,
side.
them being Jefferson
What is
Smith
this
and
video?
Catherine Ryan, aka
It is a video about the animated TV show Max Steel. If you've ever watched it, and if you haven't, no worries. I have a weird memory of visiting family in Brazil as a young child, and them having Max Steel playing on the TV.
It may not have helped it have a long life on Disney.
Strange
XD,
childhood
as
memories,
after
for
the
sure.
first season of the reboot ended, the second season wouldn't premiere on Disney XD. Instead, it
Fidius
ended
Gray
up being
says,
released over the course
seems
of a few
familiar,
drops
but I
onto
don't really have a
Netflix,
great
as it
memory
would
of it.
technically come to an end once all the episodes for the series were out, leaving us with
I mean,
2
that's no-
seasons and 52 episodes in total. For this run
It's
of
I guess
Max
it's
Steel, but much
very
like the original series, there were a bunch of
very
continuation
generic and
films,
by
7
today's
to be
standards.
exact, that
He's
would
this
all come out
kid
between mid-2015
who
to
emits,
mid-2017,
like a
with them all
powerful
having a
special
greater
energy,
impact in Latin
and
America.
it's this
So at least
world
there
where
is some
there are
great
these
consistency from the
robots
fans in Latin
that
America for the Max Steel brand. Well, maybe not everything, but what I'm
or
talking
I
about
don't know. There's
specifically
like these,
was the fall of
symbiotic
Latin
type
America not
robots.
showing up for this
Symbiotic
Max Steel
as in like
outing.
they
It was the
need
fault
some kind of
the whole
energy,
world,
and
literally. And I am of course
he
referring to and talking
gives
about
off a
the
special
2016
energy, so a super
live-action
special
Max
robot
Steel
combines with
movie.
him,
Do you
and
remember
then
this
a
movie? If you
superhero
do,
hijinks
it was all
ensues.
from the Blu-ray being stocked up on
And
every store shelves
not
for
like
Black
the
Friday
overall
sales.
plot
But I
is
know
too
99% of you
innovative.
weren't there to see this movie. It only made
Personally,
$6.2
I'm a
million
big
in
Generator
theaters
Rex fan.
worldwide.
I
Luckily, this was only a
I think I
$10
would
million
I think I would
film,
fangirl
so
for
it was
Generator
$30
Rex.
or $50 million
I think I would
film, so
buy
they still
the
lost a
latest
lot,
and
but it could've
greatest
been
Generator
way
Rex
worse.
PS4
Let's just
game.
hope the promotional budget for the film didn't double the cost of production to something up to like 20 million. Now that one,
I'm
really
tempted.
hurt. As far as what the movie focuses
No, not
on
really.
for a plot,
Okay,
it's just a loose
the
version of where things
there's
start
a
off in the
PS2 and
2013
Xbox
series with the Slate
360
Corporation's
Generator
focused
X game
characters and all of
that
the initial
kind of just
events that
goes
take this
through
average
the
team who
plot
starts finding
of the
out who's
show.
not so average thanks to this weird energy
But
that
it's
here in
it's
the
a
movie
it's
is
equivalent
shown
like
as a liquid
nostalgia
string of lucid liquid.
nostalgia
Having fuse and work
trip.
together with an alien creature made of technology as they become some
And
form
like
of
always,
superhero.
like
Now, you
all
know
the
what I
games
find
of that
more
era,
interesting than the
each
live-action
port
Max Steel
is
movie?
actually like kind of a
The
different
story of
game,
this film
which
behind the
is
scenes. The Max Steel movie,
and I
before
kind of like it
becoming
from a
what it
collector's
was actually in
perspective.
development for a lot
I think
longer
it's
than you'd
because
expect.
each
Paramount
system
Pictures
back
ended up
then had
acquiring
kind
the
of
rights to
different
develop a Max Steel movie in
specs, and they couldn't just,
2009,
do
with
the
Mattel
same
hoping
game
that
on
this would
each one.
spark a new interest in Max Steel and could be a way to relaunch
Kind of
the
reminds me
series.
like
This was
Sonic. Some
obviously
Sonic games are
years before
different on
the
each
reboot would
one.
happen in 2013. The film ended up getting
And
Taylor
so like when I
Lautner
got
of
like the
Twilight
Wii
Saga fame
version
at
of
the time
Sonic
on board
Unleashed, I was
attached to the
really
film to play
disappointed
the
because I
lead
had
role. And things were
watched
looking good behind the
different like
scenes.
Let's
Paramount was
Plays
eager to find their next
and
big
was
toys to
really
big screen
expecting like
hit
more
after the
of an
success
open
of the Star Wars
world
Transformers series,
experience.
which is funny that Transformers comes from Hasbro while Max Steel comes from Mattel.
Because I was a
There's
little too
specific
dumb
reason
to
why that's
get
funny,
that
and I'll kind of
concept
get into that and tell you towards the end of the
with
video.
that
Also,
like
not
the
long
different
after getting
systems
Taylor on
had different
board, he would
versions of the
end up
game.
leaving the project and would go and join on to a Toys
But
to Big
not like I
Screen
ever
movie
beat
for
the game
Hasbro
anyway.
over at Universal, with
I
that
was
being Stretch
special. By
Armstrong.
special I mean I
Why?
was
Because
dumb.
Hasbro
So
CEO
dumb.
Brian Goldner saw Taylor
Oh
do
no.
backflips
The
and
problem is I
crack
don't really want to
self-deprecating
shade.
jokes while hosting Saturday
Oh, I'm
Night
so
Live.
lazy.
True story. Either way, this Stretch Armstrong movie wouldn't be made anyway, and Taylor Lautner would play neither toy in live action.
We'll do a
Now,
very
the
strange
project
version
of a
of
Max Steel movie was put on hold for quite some
cell
time
shading
after
here.
this. But when the big
Autophagy is
reboot
says,
happened for the new cartoon
I don't remember
series, the
beating
film
any
would get
games
a
when I was
second
a kid.
chance at becoming a
Because you're
reality,
bad
as
at
it would be
games or
based
because
off
you
of a
never
new series
played
and hopefully
games?
bank off of the popularity of it to get an audience to want to go see it. The real
think
problem with the
the
movie, though,
game
was
I
that it
remember beating
basically
the
adapted a
most
lot of what the
was the
2013 series
DS
had in it,
game
but did so
Bolt.
in a more dull way, where you could feel
You
this
review.
lower budget quality to it that in no way was more
That's
interesting to
fine
watch
because
than
the
what
great
show
thing
would
about
provide.
being
Yes,
bad
there are
at
all
games
these
as a
slight
child
differences and
is
changes
that
from
you
the show
get
that
to
definitely make
spend
it
even more
stand out as
time
weird,
playing it.
mainly for how closely they were trying to
I mean, the whole
associate
point of
the two
games,
pieces of entertainment here. It very
time
clearly
sync,
had this
right? So
tone
you
that
can
felt
sync
like the
even more
film was
time.
relying on the heavy lifting of the excitement that
Like I have
came
no
from the
idea if this
booming
is true,
superhero genre
but
at the time.
like
It
one
took
person
and
said in a
line
video
of fun
once.
and
Yet I
gritty
find
to it,
myself
making
playing
it a
Tarkov
weird
in the Big
balance of looking and
26.
feeling too
What it is?
solid and dark,
Grace
rather
says,
than embracing the
why
more
do I do this
vibrant
to
and fun
myself?
nature that came from the
Your
series
body
or the cheesy
craves
action of
something
the
to
origins of the toy
be
in general.
like
It really
invest
just
time into
came
being
off
good
as a
at, I
misfire
guess.
from the powers that be
Your
that let
brain
the movie
does.
turn into what it was.
I once heard in
With
like
every
I once heard some
superhero
guy in a
trope you
video
can
say
think of,
that
minus any
games
of the
back then were
characteristics that
hard
make you have an
just so
actual
that they'd
attachment to
be
the character.
have like some
Now, aside from this
replayability
film
value
bombing in theaters,
because
the
they were like
technical
shorter
last piece
games
of
back
Max Steel
then,
media would be the last
arcade
two
type
TV movie
games.
continuations of the 2013 series, as they would come out in 2017. So as things stand for now, after all of that, nearly a whole decade later since
Should I
the
make-
live-action movie came out, what's up with the Max Steel
Make a layer
franchise?
group for everything.
All new next
Hmm.
weekend.
Surf.
Max Steel.
Honestly, who really knows? Because aside from fans of the franchise hoping to see something come from it
The
eventually,
okay,
practically
shooter-wise,
everybody
I've played
was silent. Funny enough, the one
BioShock,
aspect of Max
if that
Steel to
counts as a
outlive the
shooter.
entertainment industry side of
I
it
played
was how it all
Destiny
actually started.
for like a
Autophagy
hot
is
second.
racist.
With new versions
arcades
of the
still make
Max
good
Steel
money?
toys still being made and
It's a good
coming out
question.
as recent as 2021, with them only officially being discontinued in
They're-
2022. The toys
I
always
like
were the
seeing
most important
arcades
thing for this
in
franchise,
malls.
and when the reboot happened in 2013, the toys got
Chuck E.
completely
Cheese still
revamped as well,
exists,
getting a
but
big
I've
push
not
more
been
so
to
when the
one
show was
since
actually
about
airing, but they ended
the
up
early
lasting for quite some time after that
2000s.
with enough interest in them from consumers to have the
In
brand
Brazil,
survive
they
on
were
some store shelves.
in
Whether it
the
was
malls in Brazil.
different
The
unique
arcades are
versions
pretty
of Max that you
cool.
could
Well,
get, or if it was the
they had
cool
exactly
Beyblade
the
rip-off
same
toys that they
things.
heavily marketed, it was clear that the toy side
The
of
shooter
things for Max
games.
Steel were
I think
always the main
the
focus
ones
at
I
the
like
end of the
most
day.
in arcades in
Kinda
Brazil,
should
they're
be.
like
This is all coming
there's these
from
like
Mattel
little
anyway. That's their
4D
main focus,
movie
toys. The Max
boxes
Steel toys
where you
were
go
there
in,
the
put on the
beginning, and they were
glasses,
the thing that
but then
was
there's
there
also
in
special
the end.
effects
In
like the
hindsight,
seats
there
move
is a lot
around
of love out there
and
for the Max Steel
you know
franchise.
Autophagy
3D
is racist.
audio.
The toys, both
4D.
generations of
Yes,
it have their
I
own
think
audiences,
that's
and the
maybe
same
my
kind of
favorite
goes for both
thing.
versions of the show. While there is a bit of nostalgia from
So
an
I've
older audience for the
experienced
simpler
it about
early
like
CG
3
look and feel of the
times.
original series, the
I think
2013
some place
series does
here
have
in
a
the US
dedicated
has
fan base
something
that absolutely loves what it brought to the
similar.
table, with many
Question
people who
mark.
got into the series not
But
even
it's just imagine a theater experience, but The fourth D is like your physical senses. The fourth dimension is you. The seats might move. There might be like spraying water or smells or definitely movement. The sound should be more immersive, you know, surround sound per se. And then a lot of them might have 3D glasses as well. So those are all the different aspects they use to.
That guy 55579 says, "Are you a radish?"
I'm insulted. Can you not see by my beautiful bespeckled complexion and the fact that I am bald?
I know nothing about Brazil other than those cheese bread things.
Alright, well, pão de queijo is a wonderful, deliciously, you know, just deliciously horrible snack. I do love them as well. If you get the crispy outside and the gooey, cheesy center, I mean, your life is complete. But no, I am not a radish, I am a potato. As you can see by my French fry friend over there.
Sure, it has a lot of things in it that
but I mean, you don't really need to know much more about Brazil. Nothing about it's gonna change your life. But I mean, I can tell you lots food-wise, and I did my fair bit of walking around it with a friend, because this bitch is never walking anywhere alone. I walked through like the Chinatown and the Koreatown of Sao Paulo, and my weeb heart was greatly disappointed, but I guess that's what you get when you see reality. It's interesting, a lot of the stores were like, you know, like picture perfect copies of one another in terms of availability or like items. Like the stationery stores are all very
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. Anyways, nice to meet you, Mr. Radish.
Right, well, you might insist that I'm a radish, but I will always know my true identity. Nonetheless, I won't be a stickler for identity.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like on this video.
Like all the stationery stores had the same things. All the merchandise stores had the same things. Never unique. And but all the restaurants had horrific lines. All the popular ones. I guess that's the price of trying to eat something in a big city. I did go to a Korean place that claimed to be authentic, and the thing is, Brazil has a pretty big, interesting little trivia. Allegedly, according to like the last article I read, Brazil has the biggest Japanese population outside of Japan. Which is cool. I mean, and there seems to be some. Bye-bye. Goodbye, that guy. Have a good night, day, etc.
So grab a snack and settle in for the wild ride ahead.
It seems to have a bit of a Korean population as well. So the one place I went to that claimed to have authentic Korean food, I mean, did not impress me too much for the price tag. I'm also a picky little bitch, so.
Where he goes sticking his hand into vats of questionable rotting substances. Each episode follows the same formula. We're introduced to a struggling restaurant. The owners can't work out why
during the World Wars, they went there like as for refuge. So I could go ask like one pair.
Plenty of standout episodes and business owners featured over the original run of the show from 2007 to 2014.
How did the Japanese get to Brazil? There.
This episode went viral, and Amy and Sammy even went on to appear.
Japanese immigration to Brazil began in 1908 when the steamship Kasatomaru arrived at the port of Santos, bringing 781 Japanese immigrants, mostly farmers, to work on coffee plantations in São Paulo state. This migration was facilitated by a treaty signed in 1907 between Brazil and Japan, which permitted Japanese emigration to Brazil, driven by Brazil's need for labor following a decline in European immigration and the U.S. restriction on Japanese immigration through the Gentlemen's Agreement of 1907. We brought them as farmers.
Autofidias Gray says,
oh yeah.
Is coffee a big thing in Brazil?
I mean, yes. But, I mean, no more than in the American life, I think. As in the morning. Okay, I'll give this context. Okay, the context I can give is that I was around a lot of, like, family. And so older women who were cooks for the family and did the morning routine of preparing food for the family, they would get up. They would prepare the coffee for everyone, like a big, I really like this, but it's a giant pot that goes in the middle of the table, you know, thermal pot. And I like it because you can like push down on the top to pour out the coffee. You know, and they usually like put the sugar already in it, but I make it for everyone. Everyone is free to get some. You put your own milk in. I mean, it's always there for breakfast. Some people drink like espressos and drink it throughout the day. What's interesting is, I mean, there is tea, and the tea there is probably, I mean, there's a lot of loose leaf teas in stores, kind of, you know, not as much as here, or no, more than here. As in, you know, like you go to Walmart and you don't really see a lot of loose leaf tea on the shelves. I think there's a lot of loose leaf. There's yerba mate, just like some special tea we have a lot of in Brazil. But I mean, it is a big part of the economy, but it's not. I didn't feel like it was some more than usual part of life. Yeah, that's it. Let's see.
Autofidias Gray says, opinion on energy drinks.
Bullshit marketing vessels to input sugar and caffeine in that you don't need into your body. I cry a little inside when I see guys at work down like a monster before their 12-hour shift of walking around babysitting a machine. Personally, I don't believe anyone needs sugar or caffeine to get through a normal day. I don't have it. I don't use that. So I have no positive opinions, you know. I think that I think we should all be able to go through our day normally without any kind of supplements to quote unquote get through the day. I think anyone that like says, "Oh, I need an energy drink to do my like get out of bed or like do my job or live," I think they're addicted. And I think they should stop. But, you know, I'm not their mom. Like, I don't think there are any net positives of energy drinks because, you know, the sugar and their caffeine, bad for your teeth, bad for your blood sugar, bad for your waistline. Bad for your mental, like your ability to get through the day without supplemental caffeine or sugar. Just plain old bad for you. No positive opinions. Yeah, that's me. I mean, like, I have opinions on everything. So you know, just keep that in mind when you ask questions, because I have an opinion on nearly everything that there can be an opinion on. But if you want to argue with me, it's also fine. You want to debate your cause, debate your side. Do you love energy drinks? I mean, why? And also, like, from a cost perspective, right? $5 a day. Let me try to be like, let me not. I'm pulling up the calculator. Just remember, wait, how much is a normal energy drink? It can't do cool analysis. Average energy drink.
Autophidias Gray says.
Drink.
Depends on the brand.
True.
Autophidias Gray says. And size.
Yeah, let's just say like $2 to $3. 2 to 3, or so let's just go 2.5. $2.5, 365 days. Alright, it's $912. Should I do like the Instagram finance bro? If you put that into if you put that into a Roth IRA, I've got 10% a year over. Oh, you pro. Okay, let's just put like it could be a car payment. It could go towards a rent payment. It could go towards a computer. Hey, that's a pretty like. What if you told someone?
Autophidias Gray says. Don't drink energy drink equals rich.
I mean, that's what you said, not me. But I agree with you. It's, but if you're gonna drink a lot of them, could you at least do yourself a favor and find like a bulk deal? Alright, at work we have a little mini mart. That thing is predatory towards those who think they need to eat and those who are used to convenience. Things are like 2 to 5 times more expensive than any grocery store. It's the kind of thing where you can buy this allegedly fresh egg sandwich for $5, or you can buy a Walmart like bag of frozen breakfast sandwiches for $5 that has maybe 4 in it. Like, out of protest, I once made like 12 breakfast sandwiches and froze them and put them in the work freezer. And every time I looked at the mini mart and thought I kind of want a sandwich, I just took one of them from the work freezer and put it in the microwave and had myself a sinfully delicious prepared breakfast sandwich. And then I realized I didn't need to eat anyway, so then I just stopped. And there's like, okay, I don't know. I'm a gossip mouth. All my examples of things are like real people that might be mean. But there's this one dude who keeps, wait, I think I already told you this, but there's this one dude who keeps buying boiled eggs and burritos from the mini mart every day. And you would think that he would just, go to Walmart and buy a dozen eggs at some point.
That 2 episodes were needed to cover everything, but because it wasn't the usual clueless owner bickering with the bumbling chef.
It just,
Kitchen's failures were
my
the result
soul.
of a deep rift between father and son, generational trauma.
What's
and a
your
family
opinion
history
on
of
energy
fraud
drinks
and
then?
even murder. In today's video,
You need
we're
a
going
few to get
recap
through
the
your
2
day.
episodes, then we'll deep dive into how Burger
You
Kitchen
chug
came
a
to be,
Starbucks
what I thought was
coffee
just a
on the way to
particularly
work.
dramatic installment
Autophidias Gray
of one of
says.
my favorite background shows. Led me down a wild rabbit hole, and trust me, we're not going to be able to guess where this story will take us.
Alright, where am I here?
The Burger Kitchen was featured in episodes 6 and 7 of season 5, originally
okay.
airing in November 2011.
Thing we're listening to now
Previous
is
owners Alan
kind of like
Saffron
a
and his
post-analysis
wife, Jen.
on
Alan's Australian
failed
and a
kitchen
self-professed meat
nightmares
lover and
restaurants.
expert, and he wants to bring delicious Aussie Wagyu beef burgers to LA. Alan explains that he inherited $250,000 from his father and used that money to open the Burger Kitchen. It's only been open for
Autophidias
about
Gray
16
says.
months, but it's
Hey, I
losing
remember
$5,000 to
this episode.
$6,000 a month. In that time,
I don't know, the
Alan changed
business
menu countless
concepts
times and cycled
already
through
kind
10
of
chefs
is on
and 20
shaky
servers.
legs for me.
Alan can't
I want to
work out why
bring
the restaurant
Australian
isn't
Wagyu
successful.
beef
He
burgers
blames the
to
restaurant
us.
review website
One
Yelp,
of them.
believing there is some conspiracy against him and 5-star reviews are being deleted. Alan then reveals that he needed some extra money to make his burger dreams come true. So instead of saving up for a bit or getting a loan from the bank, he decided to take a further $250,000 from his son Daniel's share of the inheritance without Daniel's knowledge. He eventually told his son, who was then effectively
Using your
forced
own
into the
inheritance
business and
for
forced
a
to work alongside his
potentially
father.
failed
Daniel deeply
or
resents his father,
potentially
not only
able
for
to,
taking
I don't
his
know,
money,
not
but also
guaranteed
because he
investment.
refuses to treat him
I feel like
like an equal
pirated
business
Wage Iowa
partner.
would just be almost too fatty.
I mean, there's a whole like conspiracy theory that these rated beefs are all kind of like I think the only authentic Wagyu beef is one that comes straight from Japan, and a lot of the stuff you see marketed in the US is kind of just like playing with marketing terms and legal definitions. You know, if there's no legal definition of something, they can do whatever they want and call it whatever they want. But what do I know? I've never had Wagyu.
Algophidias Gray says. They're like 3 versions of Wage Iowa, I thought.
Do I look like I know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, if as a layman who knows nothing, my standard of what Wagyu, real Wagyu is did it come from Japan? Did it come from those cows that are like lovingly tended to their whole life? Because I don't know. If the point is just that it's fatty beef, then you know companies can play a lot around with that. But, I don't know. So this guy, he like double dipped in the bad financial decision territory though. He took 200,000 from his share of an inheritance, and then took his son's share. Like that second part is the actual like malicious part. It's okay if you take your share of the inheritance and go blow it on your dream business. But if you take your son's share, we got some problems, Dad. All right, we just got some problems.
Querrieoh says.
Wait.
A.
I gotta say A periodically in the YouTube chat because I can never trust it. Last stream, I missed a few messages because it just didn't load them, and I was sad.
I don't know why.
Also in the mix is executive chef David Blaine and Daniel's girlfriend Wendy, but nobody gets along. Daniel can't forgive his father for taking his money. Alan and Jen are too proud, are in denial, and can't admit they've done anything wrong. Alan and Jen blame Chef David for the bad food. Chef David is aware the food sucks and hates the food he has to cook, but not as much as he hates his employers. He especially hates Jen and keeps telling her to get on Prozac. Daniel feels
I think I saw a few of his
and is on the brink of a nervous breakdown.
magic
Alan and
tricks.
Jen both hate Daniel's girlfriend Wendy because she tries to stand up to them.
But
So
other than
following
that, I know
the usual
nothing.
kitchen nightmares
Has he been involved in
Gordon meets the
controversy?
team and gets a quick rundown on the background of the restaurant. He samples some of the food and unsurprisingly hates it all. The burgers are bland, greasy, and incorrectly cooked. The most baffling dish to me was the Australian meat pie. It looked nothing like what a meat pie is meant to look like, and I genuinely question whether Alan has ever had a meat pie. Gordon then confronts
I didn't even know there was a
everyone, trying
chef.
to understand how the restaurant
But
went
they
so
would blame.
downhill so quickly. Jen and Chef David
Look, I'll give you a
quickly
list of
launch
every
into a
single
random
chef I
blame
know.
game, resulting in an
Gordon
all-time
Ramsay.
Kitchen Nightmares quote.
Mushrooms are important to me.
The one from Chopped.
Chef David reveals he hasn't been paid for his work, leading to an incredible response from Alan.
He has been working on
The bald
spirit
guy.
of getting paid. The spirit.
It all gets very
Bald
heated
guy
and very
from
personal.
Restaurant
Gordon
Rescue or
puts an end to
something.
the arguing and
24
sends Chef David
hour
out to get
restaurant,
ingredients so he can
20
cook a
something.
burger his own way. Meanwhile, Gordon pays a visit to son Daniel at his apartment. We
James
also meet Daniel's girlfriend
Corden,
Wendy, who appears
Guy
to have been hiding
Fieri,
behind a curtain. Daniel
Martha
airs out his
Stewart.
frustrations about his father. He's understandably very upset about the money, but also resents the fact that he isn't respected as a business
I want to say John
Alan
Oliver.
never tells anyone when he makes a menu change or staffing change, and he also
yeah,
refuses
there you
to
have it.
formally list Daniel as
Every
a
chef I
co-owner.
know.
Daniel says he's pleaded many
Personally.
times to get his name on the books.
I got their
but
numbers.
All his father did was slap him in the face with a worthless, unofficial printout. This segment really showed how badly Daniel had been reduced to a shell of a person. He's depressed, defeated, he feels betrayed by his father, and
now
he's
I'm just
probably
playing
mourning
around
the
with shit.
future he could have had with the $250,000
Let's firm up here.
Back at the restaurant, Chef David has been
How's the
preparing
body?
his own freshly
Is it
made
acceptable?
burger, while Alan
You can
has
always
cooked
tweak
up one of
things.
his
I don't want
wagon
to separate
patties,
this out
or
so I
as
can
he
wiggle.
calls it.
With the Wagyu. A what? With the Wagyu.
Gordon says Alan's burger is hideous. Chef David then presents his burger, which predictably Gordon loves. Gordon offers.
Okay, so in this case, David
and her
Blade is
reaction
a chef that
priceless.
is helping Gordon Ramsay out on this episode. Understood.
What is that strong taste that I'm tasting?
I haven't not had hamburgers in a good long
So now
while.
that Gordon has proven that the problems with the burger
I make them
kitchen
myself,
don't lie with
so
Chef David's
I
skills,
don't think I even have
turns
the
his
ingredients.
focus on
Well,
how
I probably
Alan
do.
and Jen
Eggs,
run things. Alan
breadcrumbs,
orders in pre-made frozen beef
seasoning.
patties, which are nasty and dry,
Algo
and he
Grace
doesn't
says,
allow the staff to
"I
stray
don't really
away from
like
his
hamburgers."
menu and recipes. He and Jen
Right
are also
why
too
not?
stubborn to admit that their food is
So I can
bad
imagine
and
like a
want to
few
blame
reasons.
everything and
They're
everyone
not the
else.
most,
It all gets a bit
interesting,
too
or
much
maybe
for
you
Jen,
haven't
who
had
walks out
super tasty
frustrated that
ones,
Chef
or
David's rude
I
attitude
don't know, maybe you
isn't
have
being
trauma.
addressed. Meanwhile, Alan,
Hamburger-related
instead of getting up to
trauma.
see why his wife is upset, stays back and chows down on his gross burger patty. The restaurant starts preparing for dinner service, so Gordon can observe how things normally operate. Alan pulls Gordon aside and presents him with a book he wrote about his life and his
"I'm not the biggest
relationship
fan
with
of
his own
handheld
father.
foods."
The show glosses over the fact
You got
that
some
Alan's
very
father,
particular
Abe
food
Saffron,
autism
is
there.
actually one of the most notorious crime
I'm definitely
bosses in
very, I
Australian
don't know,
history. It also
I
turns
have
out
no
that there was quite a lot
preferences
of
in
other
terms of
information that Alan was withholding from
food
the show.
categorized
We'll get into
by
all of it
eating
very
method.
soon. Alan confides to
What if I
Gordon
give
that
you
he
a
left
hamburger
Australia
and
after
a
refusing
fork
to
and
get
knife?
involved with his father's
What if I
business, for
pre-cut your
reasons that will
hamburger
soon become
into
very clear.
triangle
He says his
slices
father was a
for you to
controlling
fork
man
into
who
your
was
mouth?
tired of living under his thumb, so he started
What-
a new
what
life
if
in the
I-
United
what if I
States,
dress it
and
up as a
their
country
relationship
fried
pretty much
steak?
ended after that.
How can you love someone who stabbed you so much?
Alright, here's my next question. What do you think of country fried steak, which is, usually like a
Controlling
really
father
cheap
presents
cut
the son.
of
Does this
beef
situation sound a little familiar?
with
As
sauce.
expected,
Maybe
dinner service is a
maybe
disaster.
sometimes
Algo
breaded and
Grace
fried.
says,
Butts heads, no one listens to
haven't
each
had
other,
country
and the
fried
food
steak
is
in
bad.
years.
We learn that
Meh.
Alan has bad breath, and miscommunication.
Yeah, when I
leads
went to
chaos
Walmart the
and
last
threats of
time,
physical violence. Daniel fires Chef David. who
what
then
was it,
comes back
cubed
demanding a
steak
check for $1,000.
was the cheapest thing
The
I could
ensuing
find.
argument is so insane
But
that
and it was
Gordon,
actually one of the
who is
first times I
usually
had
the one
seen
yelling, is
that cut
literally
at
lost for
Walmart.
words.
And of course,
think he
what I
knows at
do
this
is I
point that he's
is I
bitten
take out my
off way more
phone
than
and
he
I
can
look up
chew.
cubed
Chef
steak
David
recipes.
keeps telling Jen
And the
she
main
needs to
one
milk
was
Prozac,
country fried
and
steak.
He calls them all crackheads and meth heads. Daniel agrees to give
And I got lamb
$1,000
instead,
of his
'cause
own
it was
money
$2
when his
cheaper.
girlfriend
Aha.
Wendy gets involved,
Of course, it was
snatching
like it was
the check out of
less
Jen's
poundage
hands, which leads
of
Alan
lamb.
to yell at her with his stinky breath. Poor
But
Daniel has a
I
full-on
just,
breakdown. Can you blame him?
Don't ask for cents from me. I'm
Prozac, dear.
just a little bit strange.
In the next
All
segment,
right.
it's the following morning.
I do
and Gordon has
believe
invited the Saffron
The,
family and the restaurant
ear
staff to a
stuff
local theater.
is the next
Real
big challenge
Yelpers
here.
gather on stage along with a Yelp employee to explain to Alan that there is no conspiracy against him and they all had legitimate reasons for leaving negative reviews of Burger Kitchen. We learn that Alan really has it out for Yelpers and has sent aggressive replies back to many negative reviewers, and even threatened to report one person to the hate crime division of the LAPD. Jen saw this as a good time to
Is this
take a nap
Britain?
and has shown
You can't just
yawning and
fucking
dozing off.
report people
The
for hate
segment
crimes
is a
because I
bit
left you a
odd
bad
and
review.
long-winded, but by the end, Alan
Well, you
seemed to
can,
accept
but
that there
I
was
would
no
hope that
coordinated effort
the prosecutor's
to ruin his
office would
restaurant
laugh it
via
out.
Yelp. Now that Alan was over Yelp, it was time to tackle the main problem with the Burger Kitchen. The extreme tension between everyone, and the fact
Where's
that
the neck
nobody
fluffs?
could agree on how the
Or ear
restaurant should be
fluffs,
run.
okay.
Gordon plays family therapist in this segment, trying to work out the broken trust between father and son. Obviously, Daniel has zero trust in his father ever since his father took $250,000 from him without permission. Wendy also jumps in and accuses Alan and Jen of paying themselves a salary while leaving Daniel with no income from the restaurant.
I gotta
Once
undo
again,
some of what I
they're
was
screaming and
doing.
shouting and
I
name
might have
calling,
thought it
causing Daniel to
through
break down
badly.
again, and he begs his parents to simply take accountability, admit their wrongdoing, and try to get along with his girlfriend Wendy. I really do feel for Daniel. He's only 29 years old during the time of filming. He should be out there living his best life, building his career or whatever it is he wants to do. But instead, he's been forced into this miserable situation, dealing with not only massive financial pressures, but also some of the most toxic parents ever featured on the show. Gordon then pulls out Alan's book. He says he stayed up till 4 AM reading it and points out that the current situation in front of him was paralleling Alan's experience with his own scummy father.
The way you describe your father.
Okay, where is
exactly the way
the...
Daniel would describe you, and I'm sorry to tell you this.
Gordon calling out Alan for behaving exactly like his own father seemed to be the much needed wake-up call, and for the first time, Alan owns up to his wrongdoing and apologizes. Cue the uplifting music and everything, but in all honesty, neither Daniel or Wendy look too convinced. Next, Gordon gives the kitchen staff a crash course in cooking a burger properly before dinner service begins. Things go well at first. Daniel seems invigorated by the family meeting and is excited for change. However, things quickly fall into disarray once again, with the messy ticketing system and bad communication confusing the cooks. Alan then wanders into the kitchen, which annoys the
you know, I think a lot.
Gordon urges him to take a back seat.
Because, for example, like the channel that does that for My 600-Pound Life episodes is pretty popular. It's that kind of niche where it's a show where you might not want to pay to get full access to all of the episodes, or maybe just want like a calming rundown. I would actually prefer one with more opinions, like more or less simply speaking about what happened, and more just like, you know, balls to the wall, just like off the cuff commentary. I guess I'm just gonna repeat myself. I want someone's opinions. But the problem is, with opinions, you might have people who disagree with you. So it's way easier to just kind of say what happened in the episode with a few, you know, very acceptable milquetoast opinions. I want some fiery opinions.
You just like yapping.
I don't know how to take that comment. Are you trying to be mean to me? But I do. I mean, I like to speak. I love it when people talk to me. It makes me feel good.
Nuh-uh.
Uh-huh. I do like talking. What do you expect from me? I don't know. This I don't think I like. Is okay. Here's an opinion. Here's an example. Here is an example of the type of content creator that I really do love. His writing, his scripting is on point. All right. I love content creators who make roasting into a poetic sonnet. All right, he would be the bard of our time. I just put on his entire channel. I love this man. All right, and that's it.
I am excited for the fans to dissect absolutely everything that they hate.
Starfleet Academy had a red carpet premiere, which had everything from bad fashion sense.
It's on Melrose, that's the hat, it says Vitaly, all this.
Disastrous interviews.
Jaden, the Klingon who loves bird watching more than battle.
Klingons are diverse people.
And a way for Paramount to hyperfilter reviewers so that they could give very positive reviews. Reviews such as Starfleet Academy really isn't your parents' Star Trek, and Starfleet Academy boldly goes where many teen dramas have gone before, with that picture. Honestly, if I wanted to write a positive review while scaring off entire fan bases, those are the kind of headlines I'd write. But the reviews are for another video. This is for the bizarre and hilarious red carpet. The thing that I watched expecting there to be not much to it, and ended up with an hour-long live stream that not only had the presenter talking about how pissed she was before.
Yes, my blood alcohol content is back to normal.
Okay, well, I missed that. I missed that part.
Yeah.
No wonder you prefer a pissed. At this event, I'd want to be drinking as well. Just like the writers.
I want to drink 3 martinis, and I want to not remember my middle name.
And you can't help but think that they've either been warned or they're very self-aware about what they've created. I mean, the reviews are very self-aware that this isn't Star Trek. So I imagine the crew is, which might explain why some of the cast started begging.
So what do you want them to know about your character?
Patience. Just give him a second. Please.
But I feel to get the true impact of what this stream was, we need to go right back to the start of it. Right back to the first person on the screen when the stream started. And it was this mess. I mean, okay, it doesn't start too bad. He's a bit flamboyant. He's got earrings and a bright blue space thing on. But what the hell? Why is he wearing a dress? Start as you mean to go on, I guess. Now, the presenter did quite a good job if you're after bubbly energy. The questions were crap, but she read him off a card. That's not her fault. And I very quickly realized why she got the job.
Hello, friends, family, and fans at home. My name is...
Yeah, she got a very bouncy personality. First time it happened, I was like, I don't know whether that was deliberate. I became more certain about it as the night wore on.
Well, stick around and I'll see you soon. Mwah. Bill.
In fact, the main problem she had throughout the night was, should we say self-obsession? This is a problem across Hollywood. There's a chip on their shoulder. And I get the feeling if you know why you've got the job, that becomes really important. And so you just keep banging on about it everywhere, like nobody can realize.
And embrace that black boy joy.
Embrace it. David said it, I get to say, we have a lot of black Star Trek iconery happening right here.
It comes up multiple times across the night.
Very exciting. We have George in the middle of this Trek Oreo.
To the point where some of the stuff, I'm like, if I said that, it'd be a hate crime.
Very exciting. It's very exciting.
Personally, I pity the guy in the middle. He didn't know what to say. He tries to deny it at first.
Very exciting.
And then even one of the girls that joined in with it
Yes.
seemed shocked at what had happened.
So
yeah,
Well, I mean, there's a reason for it,
maybe
but I
shut
won't
up about
say.
the identity group stuff,
And
eh?
it's not
Speaking of
random.
really
Each one is
awful
very
questions, Paul
particularly
Giamatti as the
curated.
first
I want to
interview
try that.
with this answer.
So tell us about your character.
I've been playing with fire recently,
That is the kind of
and
in-depth character
I've made
analysis that
it
I
a
spend
goal
an
to
hour
like
watching
take
live streams
down
for,
all the
so I can bring
dead
the
and
quality goods to you.
trees around my yard.
Unhappy man. That's what I play.
Despite the questionable
every other
legality,
man in Star Trek, obviously.
let's pretend they're mine. They're all
Generally
dead
'cause it's
anyway.
written by their lessers
So
that
I've been
can't comprehend
walking
it.
into the
It's just when this
forest,
entire show is resting on the
finding all
shoulders
the
of Paul
fallen and dead
Giamatti,
trees,
although you wouldn't
dragging
guess it
them
from
into
this
my
live
yard,
stream. There's some
and I've been
photographs
trying
at
to
the end
take
where
them
he's always
apart.
just shoved to the side, out the way.
Like,
Though
I can-
admittedly, he does kind of put
Anything
himself in that
anything
position
under
at
6
first.
inches
I
in
think the photographer
diameter,
should realise
I can
where the
now
money
saw.
shot is and put him front and center. He's a man,
5-year
though.
shelf
One of
life
those.
fried
Oh,
rice.
it's just miserable.
I don't remember that
That'll
one.
be a unique experience for all of us.
I
Now,
don't
I'm
know,
not
man.
sure about all of his answers, though, especially this one.
Very
I gotta
serious
check
to
that.
campy, silly goofiness.
Dead serious. Nothing. No
I got
joking about this
beef
man
jerky
at all.
chips,
He's not
beef
campy
jerky
or
crisps.
comedic in any way, shape, or form. He's 100% serious. Okay. Why does he have noughts and crosses on his face, then? He is not a comedic villain. That's why
I don't
plays
see.
board games on his own head.
I think the interrogation
Right,
that
right.
Moose has
Oh,
with the
wait, no,
Federation
no.
of the system is really, really
Oh yeah,
exciting.
the beef
going to
bulgogi
interrogate
and
the
kimchi fried
Federation.
rice.
It means
It's a
deconstruct.
pro-adventure
No, you're not the good
meal.
guys, you're the bad guys. And the thing is, Deep Space Nine already did this with Section
Ready-wise
31,
pro-adventure
except they did it in a smart
meal.
way. They pointed out the naive belief system of the Federation and how it couldn't
The
exist in the
booba
real
tea
world.
protein.
Same principles
It's like
every
we
other
have
Federation
has so much
citizen holds
protein.
dear.
It also has like a
gave it
billion carbs.
sacrificial
But look at the
masculine system built in the
protein.
background, which was there to support it.
And yet you violate those principles as a matter of
I mean-
Alphabetius recess.
in order to protect them.
What is a
They
wax
made the
melt?
hard choices.
So
people
you know
like
what a
Picard
candle
could
is,
have
I'm
their
assuming.
nice,
So you know how a candle you have to
naive
light
morality.
If you
the
knew
wick
how
on
many lives
fire,
we've saved, I think
and then
Alphabetius
the ends do
recess.
justify the means.
Yes.
And showcased
So
a lot
this
like the
one,
real
instead of
world, like
using
the military
fire,
does
you
stuff that your average
warm up
civilian
the
wouldn't,
wax
so that your average
externally,
civilian doesn't have to. It was
and then it
excellently done.
melts and
I can't
releases
imagine
the
that this
the fragrance.
interrogation will
So I have
any
a
of that
wax
depth.
melting lamp.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
It is impossible to dislike.
You know, the problem is
anyone with that much
you can't
enthusiasm.
smell anything
After that,
unless
we
you
get Bill
leave the
Nye,
room
the
and come back
I have
in,
no idea about
because
science
like the way
guy. Just walk
candles
around,
and
hold your
wax
hand
melts
up a
work
bit,
is it's
that'll
very
do, eh? Although
gradual,
he did
right? It
spot one of the
releases the
funniest moments of the
fragrance.
night where he's going around trying to get his photograph and then just
It releases. Anyway, it releases the fragrance as it melts, but it's so gradual that the human body just like naturally filters it the fuck out. Unless you walk away and then walk back into the room, because the human body is like really only in tuned to perceive changes and not these kind of gradual things. So it's all pointless. It's all pointless. I usually use the melted wax to make fire starter kits. Not that I'm very good at those either. Like, goddamn, today.
Body is Gray says. A mic and interface.
Yeah, those are just fancy things. Like
Botrix says. YouTube chat check.
Like obviously the mic I have right now works, right? I mean, you can hear my voice. Blah 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 blah. It's just like someone recommended that specific setup to me and said it was really good. And I like singing.
I have the first generation.
The first generation what? Like of that specific setup?
Autophidias Gray says.
Yeah.
The interface.
Yeah, you see, I have like no clue what any of that, like how I would even use it in this particular moment. I just know that I need those two things together. Question mark. It's definitely like I don't know, fantastical things.
Says. Am I schizo?
I am not a medical professional, but what may cause you to believe that you are?
Autophidias Gray says. I couldn't hear you for a while and you kept moving around like you were talking.
E-O-E. Hello, 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 hello. So maybe you are. I mean, I said some things about the mic.
Autophidias Gray says. I can hear you now.
Alright. Then, hey, no one knows. No one fucking knows. I don't fucking know. Maybe it's because I opened up Discord to send the client a message. You know? Then maybe Discord was like, hey, this mic is mine now. The only thing I could think of. I should finish the border like right here. This is messy. But life is messy. You see, I gotta make sure everyone has low expectations when it comes to art, or my art. Because I don't want to clean everything up. Imagine how much harder that would make life. I have a hard enough time making it, like, barely acceptable.
Autophidias Gray says. Why is your server just purgatory?
No, it's because I have to let you in past purgatory. So, for example, you'll get Discord notifications. I mean, it just you have to prove you're not a bot.
Oh, so I'm a bum.
Basically, I mean,
Gray says. Okay.
I don't mind letting you in. It's just there. You have to be proven a human. Because, you know, there are bots and scammers everywhere. Manage. Visitor. And I don't know, you might have to restart Discord, but you should be, you know, should be in. Yeah, I'm gonna share a video actually to the Discord.
Yeah.
You. Alright, there we are. Back to pretending to draw.
Really love musical theatre. What your problem is here is because you're unable to abstract, you can only imagine the world through yourself, and so you assume that Klingons must be you. But they don't have to be you. They can be better. It's a fantasy. We don't need to restrain ourselves to your limitations. So she asked him if you could travel back in time and tell pre-Trek Karim something. What would you tell Diane?
I would tell pre-Trek
the earphones. That's what I was working on.
About to make me emotional.
Oh, I'm so proud of him.
You're proud of him for crying. The guy's supposed to be a Klingon, and you found the only person who could actually get beaten up by those 4 people with a piano.
Trust yourself, and you are dope just the way you are.
Dope
Oh, I'm sorry, that's just the English class system kicking in again. That was so common, it hurt.
as hell and fly in this purple.
Oh, it got worse. Also, I'm colorblind, but that definitely looks pink to me.
Who are you wearing? Can you tell me who you wearing?
Steve,
Who?
probably.
We
Sorry,
wearing
that was
people
before
now?
the show.
Honestly,
It's okay. It's completely fine. He looks gorgeous.
Put a foot in it there, did you? I love you! Humiliate
I'll try to be
him.
efficient.
Yeah, I'm sure you're supposed to
and
know the brand that
lasso
you're
the
wearing so you
area.
can
I need to
advertise them on them.
color.
That's why they give you the clothes for free. You're
And then
supposed to
just
care about
color
your
it
sponsor,
in.
actually.
wait, I'm wearing
Like a normal
Akira.
person.
Shout out Akira.
Yo, Akira got the
Whoa.
looks.
I mean, I know nothing about them. I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just saying,
so
if they did,
powerful.
why didn't they give them to you?
Oops.
I've also just gone on their website, and this was the banner advertisement of what you would assume would be their best clothing. So I have my doubts.
Karim, DNA, Jaden, the fine ass Klingon.
Seriously, the only thing that could have saved this live stream was a bouncy castle.
It's Starfleet Academy. We're celebrating.
But after humiliating an actor in front of their sponsor, she realised, I need to ask people afterwards, and we hear that on the hot mic.
Who are you wearing? Do you know?
Simone Rocha.
Okay, don't ask me.
Although this actress, way more enthusiastic about the brand.
I've been waiting my whole life for.
I've been waiting my whole life to wear this. And it seems honest as well. Because when they do ask her in the interview,
Who are you wearing?
I'm wearing Simone Rocha.
it sounds fine when Tilly says it at first, and then it gets weird. Who would have guessed that Tilly could be a bit strange in real life?
I love you, Simone Rocha. I want to wear all your clothes.
That came across a bit weird, didn't it? That sounds like you're gonna break in and steal her wardrobe.
Oh no,
She comes
it's a
in
bit
the
too
house and you're
repetitive right
prancing
there.
around her bedroom in high heels. I'm wearing all your clothes! But you can get them from Sainsbury's, love. I want to wear yours, though. I didn't even design those. No, but you own them.
So Star Trek champions, infinite diversity and infinite combinations.
I don't know what this refers to, where they've got it. It doesn't need to reference anything. There's not really any talking about it. It's just basically a bit of ideology that was spouted and left alone.
Love you. You too.
I'm wordless.
Speechless. You're speechless.
Feel somebody coming up behind me. Hi, honey.
I did briefly wonder if she'd had a stroke. She wants to ask her questions, though, but for some reason can't think of ones on her own or isn't allowed to and has to wait for someone to bring random cards. It's live, it was very well planned, but they come up with a very interesting way to kill the time.
We'll just look.
Yeah, we'll mug.
Stand here. Ooh.
When men try to fill dead air on a stream, they want to come up with an interesting talking point, something relevant to the audience. Maybe something thought-provoking that can spark conversation for everyone else to join in on and make it interesting. They stand there.
Ooh, perfect.
And that's enough. It's making more sense now why that woman had such praise for Kate Mulgrew's minge, innit? Kate had life on easy street until 7 of 9 turned up and then got, like, out-competed.
On the road to captaincy, she knows what she wants. She's going out and getting there, but she's got to get through the sort of university process first.
I love that. Oh, your character, obviously she's going to be a captain. Just going to get through this little thing known as, you know, like qualifying competency, actually achieving something in her life rather than just scrounging everyone up that she doesn't deserve due to discriminatory hiring practices. Although that definitely exists in this, actually. In fact, they've written what they know.
Girl, she is the daughter of an admiral. She is on the road to captaincy.
Nepotism. Hollywood wrote about nepotism. It's the only way anyone can achieve anything in life. God forbid you have to actually earn it due to your deeds.
Very dynamic, very dedicated, and she's very book smart, but she's also strong, tough, athletic, and she's beautiful.
How's she not run out of character points by now? Even in basic D&D rules,
That
you're not
is
supposed to
a
have
great
that
way
many
to put
points.
it. Alright,
You
she's
can't
book
just max
smart
out
and she's
everything.
strong,
Well,
and she's
got high
brave and she's
intellect,
beautiful. I
wisdom
mean,
and
what does
strength,
she not
and then
have?
charisma. What's the point? You've just made a god character. You might as well go home. You've already won. You could have just gone, what's your character? Well, she's an insufferable girl boss. That's what she is. Would have made more sense.
She's gorgeous.
Just like any other woman. Like,
No. Look, I know you're happy to lie to people, but the rest of us have to live in reality.
we can be many things at one time.
I mean, I don't know about that. There's always this myth that women are better at multitasking. I'm not sure. Because if they were so great at multitasking, would it really be every man's dream to have two women at the same time? One to cook, one to clean.
The thing about Star Trek that is so wonderful is that we see people at the top of their
Damn
game,
you.
the best of the best, the brightest and brilliant minds.
That was what was great about Star Trek, but
Like,
clearly
I
gone
don't
out
know.
the window here, hasn't
Do
it?
you guys even treat
We
me
can tell
bad?
that from meeting them.
Because I do both just fine.
Infancy.
But you're gonna get none of that here. That was what was great about Star Trek, but here, we got rid of everything that was great about Star Trek.
Lifelong
I'll go
Trekkies will get to see a side of the franchise they've never seen before.
But why would they want to? I mean, if they're
No,
lifelong Trekkies,
did you not
that means
hear
they've
his
seen all
stellar
of Star
joke?
Trek, and you're like, no, I'm going to show you something
Or is
else.
the volume
Well,
too
at that
fucking
point, you're showing them
unbalanced
something that
again?
isn't
Because
Star
I
Trek.
suck.
So why would lifelong Trekkies want to watch something that isn't Star Trek in Star Trek? Why are you perverting Star Trek? Why are you subverting Star Trek? Why don't you just give them Star Trek?
17 to 21 and beyond, where
Algophidius
we are
Grace
seeing
says,
all different sorts of
"No,
age
I'm
groups
just
that have been pretty
multitasking."
underrepresented in the franchise.
The reason why 17
Which is ironic, given the joke that he told.
is because it's an adult ship. They're intentionally underrepresented because they couldn't
Alright,
fulfill the
serious
role.
question.
Because
Can
you're
I-
supposed to show them the people
can I
that they
cheat
can
my
grow
way?
up into. The people that they can be in the future. You're supposed to inspire them to be better. You're not supposed to show the current filthy plebs as they are. They're not supposed to represent them. You're supposed to represent their betters.
Season 1 in 3 words, how would you describe it?
New, sexy, adventure.
Fun,
Yeah.
emotional, scary.
Notice how they're all just feeling based. Very 2D, low down the pyramid of entertainment kind of words. Not stimulating, interesting, intriguing, philosophical, challenging. Nothing about the ideas and the concepts. It's all the feelings and the base impulses of, oh, it's sexy. Well, I'm sorry, love, but if you look at the poster, no, it isn't. We've seen on the red carpet, when you leave them to their own devices, some of them can be, but not in your show when you've been done with them.
Very scary, very sexy. It's getting real scary and sexy here at Star Trek Starfleet Academy.
Which one's which out of those two? I need to know, love.
So good. I won't take up too much of your time. I just want to...
I love Tignataro's reaction to this. What do you mean you're not going to take up much of my time? I don't know what that expression is. I can't work out whether it's, what do you mean you're not taking up much of my time? You dragged me over here, you're taking it up now. Or, what do you mean you don't want to take up much of my time? I have that little interest to you. The guy, though, I did find endearing. He was asked who you're wearing and was honest.
I don't even know.
You look great.
I don't know.
Everyone looks... That's the thing.
Gave an answer like an actual man. Combine that with him going, just please give us a chance, like please, please. So far, I like him. Let's hope the show doesn't ruin that. As for the other one, though, her answers really speak for themselves.
Just vibe, twin. Just vibe. Really just vibe. Maybe drink some water, eat an apple at some point. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Insightful words there from Nose Ring Confucius. I do actually think that the overlap of Star Trek fans and people who wear nose rings is probably zero. And yet you go to this event, they are everywhere. They all want to be led around by him. It's really strange. Nose ring theory on full display. I spent this entire hour just hoping someone would bring in a fridge. That's all I wanted. Someone walks past the cameras with a face full of fridge magnets. It would have been amazing.
Has been a giggle bomb and love fest here. Gina Yashire. Yashire.
Yasha. Yasha. Don't worry, I'm here to help with the English lessons. It's fine.
Focus. Work hard.
Alright, I don't know
And then a wrestler
how
showed up
anyone
with
would
a
rate
newly
this
won belt. Things started to get a little bit weird.
bastardization of the artistic process,
Weirder
but
than before.
Wow, I feel so protected. I'm just a lady. I'm just a girl. We have WWE Intergalactic Champions here to keep
bit
us
weird
safe.
looking right now.
Ooh. Stay tuned.
I have no idea where that came from, but definitely will have got him a few viewers.
Champions here to keep us safe. Ooh.
They should get her to present more things. like a milking farm audiobook. But she says to one cast member, yours is not a normal story, is it? What do you think he brings to Starfleet Academy?
I'm
Well,
no
I think
artist,
he's
I'm
bringing
just here to chill.
a level
Well,
of I don't care to the
I
Academy. and I
appreciate
think
your
that that's something that
existence more than
is
you may
helpful in
ever
a way,
know.
and if
Oh, great, he sounds like an amazing character. Starfleet is for the best of the best, the peak people from around the
It's a bit,
universe.
I don't
and
know,
then
it's a bit
just
fucking
some
weird looking.
random guy that
It's a bit
doesn't wanna
fucking
be
weird
there.
looking
It
from
doesn't
both
sound very
sides.
hierarchical. It
So-
doesn't sound very meritocratic. No, he's actually brought in due to nepotism by the captain. Starfleet in this era seems to be utterly destroyed. It's nothing like Starfleet as it used to be. Instead, the newly regenerated Starfleet is just Hollywood, casting people for identity groups and family members. Talent need not apply.
Have a great night. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Oops.
The stream went from something I wasn't interested in to something that took me hours to go through. It was really entertaining for all the wrong reasons, and considering those reviews came out as I was recording, I'm very excited to look at those as well. As comparing the headlines to what they've been telling us on the
Where's
live
the- okay.
stream, there's a bit of contradictory information here. And as Starfleet Academy drops in 1 week, I am very excited to see how this
Like, what am I
turns
supposed
out.
to
And ask the
do?
question,
I don't know how I'm
what on
supposed to
earth
do
did they
this.
think they were doing when they made this
I think I need a
series?
back
Those are just my
layer.
thoughts. What are
A
yours?
back
Let me know down in the comments
headlayer.
below. Like the video, like the video. Subscribe, more videos like this in the future. I will see you in the next one.
With this
Bye-bye.
orange stuff.
From owners who turned their restaurants into personal battlegrounds
Right. I'll
to
find
family
another
feuds
video
that destroy
instead of
million-dollar
this
businesses.
retelling style.
By taking his money.
Here's what happened to the restaurants Gordon Ramsay couldn't save, starting with
Hey, hi, how's it going? Quebblecop. Now, if you don't know who Quebblecop is, essentially, he's a YouTuber who's been on the platform for many, many years, known for mainly just GTA gaming videos. Like, that's his real thing, and he absolutely blew up off of them. Was
Yeesh, I
top of the
forgot about
game for f***ing years.
Yeah, I never
was
knew him. I
absolutely
never
killing
watched
it,
him.
Stayed killing it pretty much forever.
I
and then
only
out of
learned about
nowhere,
him
turned his
when he
channel
started
into
doing
an
some kind
AI
of
slop
weird
factory. I'm not kidding.
AI
Like,
thing.
that's
I-
literally what he did. He was like
Querrieoh
top of the
says.
game
Ah.
for so f***ing long.
Alright,
Could have
well.
just kept doing it
I'm
until
not
he
missing
retired
any
or
YouTube chats,
whatever.
at
But
least.
instead, he decided to just
Algo
like
Fighty is
generate
great says.
AI videos. And here's the thing: I've talked about him before. Okay, a few months ago, I talked about him and I reacted to his AI videos. And at the time, the videos he made were with something that he called the Quebblecop AI, which was essentially just him, but like as a little AI character, and he would react to videos. But the thing is, like, he would
Matrix
allow
says,
the AI
YouTube chat
to
check.
react to the video, if you know what I mean. Like, he didn't write the reaction and just make the AI say it. No, the AI generated a reaction to literal AI videos. So it was an AI reacting to an AI video, and it was shit. Genuinely,
I feel like it's a
horrible.
it's a
I'll play
very
clip of one of the
interesting
ones I
thought
watched last time,
experiment,
just so you
but I
can understand
don't
how
see
bad
the
it was.
point. Like, I guess he just has fun doing it, but once again, what is the point? I don't know if he's. I think I
Yeah,
saw
so,
a
like,
clip where he's like he's not making
that was
any
the
money of
state
it
of the
from it.
Quebblecop channel for a while, for a very long time. Again, he went from killing it.
I might
and
just
then
put
he
on,
just
like,
decided to
report
make
of the
AI
week.
videos of AI him reacting to AI videos. It was the worst transition ever seen on YouTube. Probably the dumbest thing I've ever seen personally. Like, it was just a horrible
Look,
play. And since then,
the worst
you know,
case
he got
scenario is I
a
start
lot,
singing.
like, a lot of criticism. A
I'm
lot of
not tea.
deserved
Let me see if my tea
criticism,
still
'cause he
tastes
just
good.
threw it all away. And so since then, instead of, you know, maybe switching it up or just simply
Okay,
chalking the AI
I've analyzed,
idea
and my tea still tastes pretty
entirely,
okay.
he's decided to double down.
And it's still pretty warm,
since that point,
but not
just
burning hot. I
continued
mean,
to
I figure it
post
might be perfect.
genuinely thousands of AI
I nod my
slop
head in
shorts.
appreciation.
Now, I will say, when it comes to his actual videos, it is him. For a while, he actually did make full long-form videos with the AI,
where would I
but
put?
those have since been deleted. He's made a
Put
few
it right
with
here?
it's like actually just him. But the thing is, his upload schedule has gone to shit. He's posting once every like 6 months. Like, he's not posting long form videos. He's pretty much entirely posting shorts. and they are, again, entirely AI generated. But the thing is, the difference, the big upgrade that he's made since now and then, is that his videos are no longer the Quebblecop AI reacting to AI videos. They are now realistic AI videos of him just like doing various things. For example, emergency landing.
Okay, this is not normal. Ladies and gentlemen, we're preparing for an emergency landing. Grace, just get us on the ground. Please.
Yeah, so that is a legitimate video on a channel with 15 million subscribers. This was actually posted by Quebblecop, and it is a
like the more
AI
I
video
return to art, the more I see things wrong with what I'm doing.
Engine
And
failure,
like the perspective of that hair floof right there is like,
so that's
then you know, perfection is the enemy of completed
from what I
work.
can tell, he's like pretty proud of it. He has talked up AI quite a bit. He was very proud
Also,
of the Quebblecop AI,
can you
even though
please-
everybody hated it. And you know,
What
this
is
is
it?
just this is just kind of his thing. He enjoys the out of this, even though it's soulless and looks like shit.
I don't know what
and
you're
is
doing.
Literally killing his channel and
What is this?
you know, any revenue that he could have possibly made.
Similar in color.
At least he likes it, you know. Hey, you know, like,
I
when it
want
comes down to it,
outside
hey, at
of the
least he's
hair.
enjoying,
I don't know what you're
the
selecting.
slop he's making.
I don't
Good
even
for
know
you,
what I'm
Quebblecop,
selecting. What are you
'cause,
doing?
Again, like I said, literally nobody else is. I mean, if we just look at the comments of this emergency landing video, you'll see.
What is this?
The top comment is, "Holy fall off." Look, I mean, you really can't make this shit up. This is the reason you lost views. Put the fries in the bag. We lost him. Like, just start uploading normally. You would get more views from one video than 19 of these. That might be the realest comment I've read on a YouTube short too. This is a YouTube short comment and they're fucking cooking. That's actually crazy. That's insane. And he's right. Like, dude, like every video that
I don't
this
know
guy
what settings
posts
to
where it's
fix
just
this
him
on, so
does pretty
I
well.
guess I gotta go back.
I mean, now since the AI change, they do a lot worse because again, he killed his channel. But my point is like none of these AI videos have ever done good. He's never gotten a taste of success from this shit. He's just doing it for like, I don't know, no reason. I mean, dude, this video, this emergency landing video literally has 36,000 views. Now that's not like horrible. I mean, it's not terrible, but this channel has 15 million subscribers. 15 million. He got 36,000 views on a short, something that is quite literally easier
Why even
to get
ruin
views
the
on than a
metrics of your
long-form
main
video.
channel with that kind of
Always
experiment
have more
anyway?
views. You know, they're inflated as fuck. This guy got 36K and he's got 15. Like, this is not working. This is just simply not working. And look, I'm gonna try my best to not just like beat a dead horse. I mean, I've already talked about the dude. I literally said everything that I just said, I said in my last video, you know, so I'm gonna try to not regurgitate the same bullshit, but it's like, what else am I supposed to say about this? Like, that is quite literally
you
just
don't have anything
the
new
fact
to
of the matter is
say.
that it's not ever gonna fucking work. It like from the beginning has not worked a single time. And I think it's crazy that he's continuing to do this because it's like, bro, the capabilities of AI have just absolutely skyrocketed, which you would think would make them do better. But people's
by, like,
enjoyment of AI
5?
has just plummeted in the past year. I mean, shit, in the past 6 months, I've seen
Maybe
people
feathered?
with more disdain for AI than like actual wars. Like, I mean, dude, motherfuckers hate AI. AI's doing nothing but
Well,
getting
I'll
better.
probably get
But
annoyed
people
by
just don't
the
want to
result,
watch this
but
shit. So it's
yeah.
like, bro, you're paying more to make these videos, which I know it's still not very much, but my point is like you're
Okay,
paying more to make the
revert the-
videos and you're just gonna make less because people
Better.
don't want to see this shit. Even though it's better. Honestly, when AI was horrible, it was actually kind of entertaining. Because it was so bad. That was the entertainment of it. This actually looks real as shit. You can honestly, I mean, you can obviously tell, but it's way
smooth.
better than it's ever been. And it's like nobody likes this shit. It's
Be
dog shit.
feathered
This
by
is
one.
dog shit content. Like dude, whenever I clicked on his channel earlier, I
Hey.
watched his most recent video, and the first thing that went through my
But,
mind is like, why the did he think this was a good thing to post? Like, we'll watch it. I'll just show you exactly what I mean.
Right, solution. It does fill out his head a little.
Please remain behind the line and no flash photography, thank you.
So it's a fully AI generated video of him taped to a wall and people are around him like thinking that it's art. I honestly think that that is a pretty good premise for a YouTube short. I really do. I think that's funny because it, you know, it pokes fun at modern art, and it's, you know, it's also extravagant. It's like you taped yourself to a wall. I think that's a really good idea for a YouTube short that like could have done really well if it was just him. Like if he went out with a few friends, you know, you don't need that many people. If he went out with like 4 people and recreated this and actually taped himself to a wall, it would be a fantastic YouTube short that I could almost guarantee would get a ton of views. I mean, really, like it genuinely would. But instead, he went to Sora AI, typed out the prompt, and the short flopped. It absolutely, like, it shit the bed. It's a horrible short. It's not funny in the slightest. It's dog shit. Like, this is literal dog shit. Nobody wants to watch this. And I mean, again, I'm completely backed up by the comments. I mean, dude, Quebble Slop. Motherfuckers are calling him Quebble Slop. Like, you gotta be kidding me, bro. Dude, you cannot get a comment that says Quebble Slop and think, oh, maybe I should keep doing this. Bro, what happened to the Quebble cop I knew 5 to 6 years ago? I mean, I'm sure he's still the same guy. He's just, I guess he's got his values completely wrong. We need to pull the plug. Like, come on. You disappoint me. I mean, wow. Yeah, I mean, like, look right here. With a channel like this, how easy and cheap would it be to just film a real clip doing this? Exactly. It's not like this is some super expensive idea. I mean, I guess if you want to do it in like an actual museum to have the, you know, background and whatever, then of course, you know, I'm sure it would be pretty expensive to do that. But if you just wanted to like recreate this in your own f***ing home and duct tape yourself to a wall, it might take some time for sure, but like, dude, you've got 15 million subscribers. It's a honestly really smart YouTube short. You would make it back. You would make all that money back and some. You would make a lot of profit from this short, but instead,
so you'd have to go get permission from like the people that own the wall. You'd have to go,
like, dude, it's pennies and dimes, man. Like, I mean, we're talking about 60,000 views on a
YouTube
short.
local security
YouTube's already
guards.
making no money, and yours
You'd
are
have to
AI
do the
slop.
actual
YouTube probably does
taping.
not pay Quebble
You'd
Cop
have to like
very
set
much
up
money at all
probably
for
a
these shorts.
privacy
Honestly, if you
fence
told me he made
so that no
$1
one
or
sees
$2
what
from this video, I'd
happens before they reveal the thing.
Honestly, I don't even think he made that much. But like, again, whenever I clicked on his channel and I watched this, it really kind of disappointed the f out of me, because this is it's a good idea. It is an actual good idea that probably would have made him a ton of money if he just did it. Like, I don't understand what kind of choice this was. Why? Like, dude, if you want to make AI videos so bad, if you somehow, which it would be extremely fucking corny if you did, but if you somehow just loved the idea of fully AI generated content, why not just make another channel? Like, why throw it on your channel with 15 million subscribers? 15 million subscribers who, by the way, subscribed for him. Like, look, you gotta understand that, like, this would work for some people. Okay? There's some channels out there where their content is genuinely so shit, but they have a good following, that if they changed to fully AI generated content, it would probably just work. I mean, for example, Nutshell Animations. I could guarantee that he could switch fully to AI generated content, and it would probably do just as well as his, you know, other shit. Like, I guarantee it. I guarantee it would. But the thing is he got 15 million subscribers off of himself. Like, they subscribed for him and him playing games with his friends. You can't get that same vibe out of an AI. You just simply
once again, I
can't
must
do it.
mention,
Like, I don't understand why
our
this
glorious
choice was made.
leader
I
has
genuinely, like, I know I
flipped
said this in the last video I
food
made on him, but I
pyramid
just, I can't
into its
understand it.
correct
I really can't. Surely he didn't think this was gonna work.
orientation.
Right? So, like, that can't be the reason. And I
must celebrate.
really do not think the reason is just because he has a passion for AI.
Finally, after years of indecency and lies, meat, that,
none of the work. You
and cheese is at the top of the food pyramid, as it always should have been. And of course, natural vegetables and fruit.
I just don't think it's that. So what is
and the lowly
like,
bread is at the bottom, along
with
other refined, useless grains.
I genuinely don't get it, but these new videos are
You may not understand now, but
cursed,
one day
dude.
you will.
The last ones where it's like, again, the Quebble Cop AI reacting to shit, those were already like
No, I mean, like, literally, they flipped the food pyramid.
Terrible. I mean, what the f is this shit?
I mean, I guess most. Okay, I told a few people at work about this, and they said a similar thing. You know, like I haven't looked at the food pyramid since elementary school.
What do you even type?
You know, that's the last place I actually remember being told
what was the prompt?
seriously about the food pyramid. We had like a class in a kindergarten. No, not kindergarten. You know, like elementary school.
With 6,
No,
7 in
you know,
its eyes.
probably
just like
soon before or after the class on properly washing our hands and what germs are. There was the food pyramid, the food plate type discussion.
Bizarre. And dude, I swear to God, Sora AI is.
And I don't remember
like there's something
much.
up with it.
Like
Bro,
I took away no
be able to make
information.
videos that look like this. Like I mean, again, you can definitely tell
I
it's AI.
and I ate wrong my whole life anyway.
Great, but the fact that it is extremely realistic, and the fact that it was
And
made
now,
in probably like
well, I mean,
5
most people's
whole
reactions to
seconds,
this are,
I mean, is insane.
well, that's great. I'm gonna continue eating how I eat. But
this shit is so.
I mean, history does tell us that when they changed the food pyramids and the dietary guidelines, people did change their eating habits.
Level 6, 7.
Unfortunately.
Sometimes I
because
think
the
about,
guidelines
like,
are
if I
bad.
could go back in time and show me
So now,
from like when I started
with the
doing
guidelines
YouTube,
being
if I could show
in a
myself
better
a video
direction,
now, you know, I think about that and I think about how crazy it
we
would
can
be
hope
because you know my videos have stepped
that
up
people
so
will change
much
in a better
since
direction.
then that like if I feel like if I showed myself from a few years ago, it would be a crazy moment. It would be insane. I would be very proud of the videos, right? Because I mean, they're just better. They're just simply better. So I think about that a lot. And I'm thinking now, it's like, imagine showing Kwebbelkop at his peak, like right when the GTA stuff started taking off. Imagine showing him this video and telling him like, hey man, this is where your channel ends up. Just by the way, this is the type of shit that you will just post consistently like 2 or 3 times a day.
Maybe this guy, Kwebbelkop, went crazy because GTA 6 kept getting delayed. Blame Rockstar for his illness.
Pissed. He'd be so mad at himself because this is actual shit. Like genuine shit. Dog, you are supposed to evolve. You're supposed to get better. And like, here's the thing. I've seen plenty of people devolve and like make shittier videos just because the views are higher with the shittier quality videos. I've seen it 1,000 times. And that is, you know, that's a fine decision to make. You know,
there are a lot of
sometimes you
YouTube content creators who
that's the thing. If you just know that lower quality videos are gonna get you money, like, I mean, it sucks.
Why are you
but
part of the
whatever,
cult?
you know, do your thing. But,
Why
like,
are
bro,
you
these
also
do
a
neither of
GTA
those
6
things.
cult
This
fan?
does
See, I never
not
played
evolve his
1
content
through
at all, and it's
5.
not better content, and it
So
also
I guess I'm just
doesn't
not
make you
understanding
money.
very
Like,
much.
really at all. Whatever, dude. I mean, we could sit here and like try to break down why he would make this choice.
And all your progress
forever,
in
but to be
5
honest,
will be wiped out of the millions of dollars you personally spent
make the choice, and now his videos
to join the social
well
role play. Gone. Alright, and they'll immediately try their best to drag millions out of you.
Just and post, dude. Oh my God, Sora cooked on this one. Like, is that dude, I just don't get it, dude. It's just like so low effort, and that's like, listen, I think doing low effort things is fine. You can make low effort.
Nah, I was gonna say that
you can, you know, like I don't think that
it's interesting how
if it's what
there are a lot of YouTube creators that used to do long form content who made second channels and kind of just retreated into much lower
music and, you know, obviously some audio things.
Production
my editing is
videos.
pretty simple, but it's because I like that. I don't like videos that are just f***ing crazy and, you know, like I could make that. I really just don't want to. That's not what I want to put out. I like that my videos are pretty chill and long, and like I enjoy that. I can guarantee that he doesn't actually enjoy his own videos. I guarantee.
Oh, okay, here's the problem. Okay.
Shit. And you know, another thing that I noticed earlier, which doesn't exactly matter, but just to really push on the low effort part, it's like, bro, these videos, all these take to make is, again, just writing a prompt into Sora AI and using his character, right? Like that's quite literally all it takes. You could make probably 20 of these within an hour. And the thing is, he doesn't even make them. He doesn't even make them. Bro, if you go to his Instagram, his bio is literally get paid to make Sora 2 videos. And he's got a Discord link to a server called Quebblecop AI, where I haven't joined it because I'm not gonna join it. But I'm assuming in there, he just has a bunch of people that he like hires to make Sora videos. So he doesn't even, bro, all the work that needs to be put in is literally just typing a prompt and using a character, and he still doesn't even do it. Like, what the f happened? I don't understand. And honestly, I feel like the fact that he's paying people to make the videos is kind of stupid. It's like, bro, is that not the whole point as to why you would AI generate videos, is so that you don't have to pay other people to make them? Like, why? That's so backwards, right? Like, just pay an editor and record a video. Like, actually record a legitimate short and then just pay somebody else to make the short. But instead, he's paying people to use an AI to generate dog shit videos that make him pretty much, I mean, honestly, I don't know. Considering how many videos he posts, he could be breaking even. He could be making a profit, but it's not going to be very much. Like, I can guarantee it's not much. All for what? Like, I don't, bro, it's okay to just gracefully leave. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, because clearly he doesn't like making videos anymore. Clearly he just doesn't want to put the work in to make the videos anymore. Okay, fine. Just leave. It is totally okay to just gracefully leave. Like, I don't understand why that's such a problem. Like, your channel does not have to keep posting. You can very much just disappear and be stagnant. That's totally okay. You've made your money. I'm sure you made plenty of money. And leave. Go then. Like, you don't want to be here anymore, so just don't be here anymore. Why are we making AI generated videos of you like falling into a pothole and almost dying, or like an emergency plane landing? I mean, bro, this is just like a waste of time. Taped to the front of a jumbo jet.
Can't believe this. I'm literally taped to the front of a jumbo jet right now. Look at this view. The wind is insane. I can barely keep my eyes open. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever done. We're going. I don't understand it. I mean, I gotta say, it's kind of insane how realistic this video looks. I mean, other than there where his face looks like a
how soon till Mr. Beast starts using it, but then he like never even mentions it?
I mean, it's kind of insane, but like, bro, this is a shit.
Would anyone
video.
be able to
Like,
tell?
A horrible video.
It's a full-on Krusty Krab in real life. Clamshell sign, flags, the whole wooden exterior. Let's head in. They even built the boat counter and the order here sign. It smells like a grill in here. And check this out, the legendary burger.
I mean, what's the point? What's the point, dude? Why was this fucking made, man? And like, you know, I would ask why are people watching it, but to be honest, there's no reason to ask that because people aren't watching it. I would ask who this is made for, but the answer is going to be nobody because nobody's watching it.
For now,
Clearly,
of
this
course.
is just a random video made for nobody. I just don't get it, dude, because like, I mean, look, the thing is, at a certain point, the time comes where everybody's got to move on. You know what I mean? Like, as much as I would love it for the fucking YouTubers that I watched growing up to just always make videos and just always exist, it's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen. Eventually, they've got to move on. They got to do other shit. And at a certain point, they've made enough money to go do other shit. You know, they've made enough to retire and to just off and go do other things, whatever that may be. Right? Like, I don't think that's that big of a deal to just, again, just gracefully leave. It's totally fine. So why, like, what, bro, just let go. Dude, at this point, just let it f***ing rest, dude. You've made quite literally a legacy. You've got 15 million subscribers. You did great for so long. Quit f***ing killing it, dude. Quit killing it. You made a legacy. Stop killing it, please. Quebblecop, just fuck it off, because this is dog shit. This is so ass.
I'm deep inside this ancient city right now. Look at this. It's Minecraft, but in real life.
It's like he's putting himself into Minecraft, and it's like, this would be so cool if it was just a real video. You know what I mean? Like, this would even be cool if he recorded himself like walking upstairs and then just did CGI for like the whole background and the, you know, the warden, whatever. It would be cool with that. I mean, bro, CGI videos are just fine. Edited videos are just fine. Fully generated videos suck. They suck. They're terrible. They're not good.
I'm actually about to jump off the Burj Khalifa into a pool. This is the tallest building on Earth, over 2,700 feet. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Like, dude, what the bro? Dog, the AI looked like shit in this video, bro. You look like a boot. You kind of look like a shoe in this in this frame. I mean, bro, like this is I mean, there's no other word for it other than just fucking slop. This is slop. This is so dog shit and terrible. Bro, you look like a boot. And not to mention, when you come out of the pool, you don't even look human for a second. That's a demon. That is a demon. That is not a human. That is a fucking skinwalker. And then you move, you know, a few frames forward, and all of a sudden you don't even look like yourself anymore. You went from fucking Quebble to like some dude named Brad, just like some guy, just some random dude. Whatever, man. You know, this looks horrible, and I still guarantee that my grandma would fall for this. So like, I guess, you know, like, look, I asked earlier who the videos are made for. I realize now it's just like elderly people who are senile and just like believe absolutely everything they see, because that is genuinely the only thing it could be. That's the only thing it could be. 15 million subscribers, and this video has 100 likes and 12 comments. Again, dude, just to go back on the point, like, you literally built a legacy. You built a channel that like is genuinely almost impossible to get to. You know, 15 million subscribers, like there's so little people with that amount. Built a f***ing legacy and is just genuinely killing it. Like, bro, I hate to be that guy, but like, you will be remembered as the AI guy. Like, that's your fucking fault, dude. I'm just pointing shit out. You're not gonna be remembered for the
I found a video analyzing Frozen 2.
That 15 million. No, see now that you've milked
I
it
have never
this far
watched.
and it's well known that you're just slop now, bro. You're just gonna be known as the dude who fucking posts dog shit AI videos.
I don't know, I'm
Like,
just of the
that's a
belief that
tragedy, bro.
Disney
That
musical
genuinely,
animated
like, I
movies
can't
do not
believe he would
need
do that to
sequels.
himself, you know what I mean? Like,
Just
why,
give
why
me
kill
new
it, bro? Why
content.
kill it? Just gracefully move on. I just don't understand.
We're on the plane. I just need to grab my bag right up here. Whoa, what? They're kittens. Why are there so many kittens?
Yeah,
Oh my God,
fucking
they're still
super
coming. Look at
cool
this.
and cute, dude. An awesome AI video of cats, bro. That's really cool. Like, I just... Yeah, you know what? Whatever. We're just gonna end it here because I've got nothing else to say. Like,
I'm not sure you had anything to say at all. And I still listened. Dun-dun-dun-dun.
Autophidias Gray says. The pointless yapping work.
Yeah, I mean, time has passed. My brain did not have to wallow in silence.
A personal belief or a made-up story. The scammer brings their power TO deceive straight into the bank.
Okay, this is like one of the worst. Okay, top comment of this video. Matt Sweat 85. Your AI keeps spelling out words randomly, laughing emoji. And they don't even... They don't even get their own body cam footage, they just rip it off other people's channels. Oh! So, never mind. That's another thing to watch. I probably already watched this one anyway. Like, I don't even know what would satisfy me. I'm in that phase, okay? I don't particularly care to consume. I just need to consume.
Fast-paced RTS games. That was my first love. Yeah, even before Halo shooters and of course the online RPG and MMORPG virtual world genre most of you probably know me for. I detailed this in my StarCraft 2 video, a video that's recommended watch material. Think of this like a mini sequel episode to that, even if the games were leagues apart. I am a StarCraft 1 fanboy through and through, as most of you probably know. But through the fandom, I was connected to virtual worlds in a very interesting way, with the creators of StarCraft 1 being one of the big designers behind Guild Wars 1, making
See
my
if this can
transition,
captivate
if you
me.
wanna call it that,
Right
not
now,
that
I'm working
uncommon or
on
strange. Why even
Filling out
use the
the
word
eyes
transition,
here.
besides for memes? Well, because we haven't seen that many RTS games, especially since the pre-2010s, making it a less popular in culture zeitgeist genre than even MMORPGs in some ways, and that's saying something these days. Sad. So what am I talking about, Willis? Well, we had another RTS game come and promise to make things right
Something I gotta
and
check out
return the
real
RTS genre
quick.
to premier glory. Problem is, like many that came before, it didn't happen. Stormgate was highly touted and advertised as being from former StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3 Blizzard developers. Originally announced in the summer of 2022 and would release first in early access 2 years later in 2024, before launching fully August 5th, 2025 just recently as of the time of this video. But Stormgate would raise a ton of attention, even being mentioned by me in my StarCraft 2 video due to a key giveaway, and being hyped by all of the biggest RTS names in the biz even. Within just a few months after each of its launches even though, would fail to maintain a workable competitive population, let alone a casual one at all. What went wrong with nearly 40 million in budgeting, and how did supposed industry vets fail to impress casual and competitive players alike? On this episode of Death of the Game, a series where we investigate the largest contributing factors to the death or dying of a game or company by utilizing a timeline of events filled with clues and bits of evidence we uncover along the way. Pay attention along the way to pick up on any clues as they
I'm
present
playing with the.
themselves.
Oh right,
And
you can
stay
see
tuned to
it.
the end for the final deduction, where the best
Uh-oh.
detectives get to show their moment in the sun
I was
and crack
tabbed
the
out. How did
case.
we get here?
Pick your faction
I'm
detectives. We've
playing
got
with
3 to
another
choose from.
program, but now
Keys
I
to
need to
master.
see if I
In
can
case of some
find it
random
in
haters
my
thinking that I wouldn't cover this
OBS
game for some reason, despite this kind of
list.
being my whole gig, and a legacy with
Here's
a
this
behemoth
one.
level shadow to escape. Something something mess with the bull, get the horns. The story begins with the founding of Frost Giants, originally founded in 2020 by a couple dozen supposed Blizzard veterans. I say supposed because we only know of the big bill names involved really, like
Okay,
Tim
here's what it's
Campbell, who
showing
was
us
a
as.
director on Wasteland 3, a CRPG survival style game that I actually really enjoyed, and the campaign designer on Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne. Tim Morton, who was the CEO of Frost Giant, was a former producer on StarCraft 2's Legacy of the Void expansion, now running that
This is
Finally, we had the likes
another
of James Anhawk, who was a pathfinding engineer on
VTuber,
StarCraft 2, and
pngtuber
finally
that I
Mike Crawford,
created.
who was the lead designer on Heroes of the Storm. That's
vtuber.
not saying much. And then Cara LaForge, the mother of Day 9 and Tasteless, was the head of
Open
business development, having previously
file.
worked on StarCraft esports and, of course, at Blizzard. A team had been
What's
assembled
up?
with an idea. It was
Programs.
like a fellowship. All that was left was funding that idea, especially if you wanted to
Aldo
spend so much
Fadius
time
Gray says,
advertising how
"The
ex-Blizzard
potato
you
is
were,
better."
and how closely associated you wanted to be with StarCraft and Warcraft,
Dang.
two incredibly well-supported
That's very
and polished
sad.
games. Something that would be putting immense pressure on them, and it was pressure they put on themselves, really. Frost Giant would search for funds in the form of multiple rounds of
Considering
funding,
I was
investment
planning
funding,
on working on
initially
my own
being funded by
personal
the likes
model.
of Kona Venture Partners and Global Founders
Ooh.
Capital, big venture capitalist style funding places. Series A would follow.
This
which was actually better
is
than
this
the
is an
funding you
example
typically see
model.
on the series, since they actually have a bit more time and
Where's
some
the
more relaxed
microphone?
requirements. Their other investments would come largely from Cacao Games, Riot Games, and Bitcraft Ventures.
Isn't there
This would
supposed to be a
bring up
search
their
bar?
initial funding to
No.
around 34.7 million at the time pre-launch. Now let's cut to the chase. Money was going to be needed to make a game, but a game wasn't the only thing
oh,
needed to
Lord.
advertise. This was an upcoming
W.
Unreal
querrieoh,
Engine
stay
5
hydrated.
RTS that was being made by the developers
Thank you. I
behind
have some
StarCraft 2 and
green
Warcraft 3,
tea
shown
to
front
stay
plus success.
hydrated.
Well, at least some of them.
YouTube chat
This
check.
strategy
But my
only
voice
has
will
two
forever be
options. Either you
scratchy.
bring in all the hype and get that sweet, sweet StarCraft
Alright,
money after
don't
that, or
mind
you
me.
revel in
Okay,
the shadow of the
Blinker.
nemesis that
This
you
is
chose to summon
interesting.
yourself and willingly steered
But
into it for
this
hype revenue
program is
generation.
so complex.
It's like hearing
It
about
really
Nemesis
is.
and Resident Evil and just deciding, you know what, let me go hit this guy up. Despite claims of 100 million,
Where
StarCraft
is
2's
the
budget has not really ever
microphone?
been clearly reported, and Blizzard has been tight-lipped on those costs, alongside Warcraft 3.
Lord.
But we can make some assumptions based on some other
Where's
budgets
the
that we
microphone
have some
input?
ideas on.
Where's the
Like,
microphone
Age of Empires
input?
3, an RTS, of course, in the Age of
Aldo
Empires
Fadius Gray
series,
says,
which had around a $20
"You
million
stream on Kick?"
budget. Adjusted for
Yeah,
inflation, that would make their
I
budget about 33
multi-stream
million
to
today,
Kick
which
and
would mean a game
YouTube.
from 2005 has the same budget
So
as a game that was trying to be the
sometimes
next
Kick is
AAA
absolutely
RTS
at
in the
0, so I'll just stop the
2020s.
stream.
While things could work, if Frost Giant
I-
wasn't
I
smart
just
with
need
their
to
direction as a company
find-
and the direction of their upcoming RTS game, they
Oh,
could
wait,
run out of money
maybe
before even
this.
getting to the finish line or shortly after. This was exacerbated because now people had expectations you were going to be better, or at least on par with StarCraft 2, Age of Empires 4 now, and Warcraft 3, and of course some of your competitors like Age of Empires 4. And let's just be honest, any opportunities to steer away from this, Frost Giant just ignored. You lay your bed.
Oh
Such as even
yeah.
claiming your new RTS, dubbed Stormgate after
Ba-
public announcement of
ba-
June
ba-
9th,
ba.
2022, was made in response to needs that StarCraft 2 had, like co-op. Tim Morton would even claim
PGP
Stormgate's focus was
cursor.
on social play too.
I mean, the cursor
This social
doesn't seem
play
to
was
do
by
that
attacking
much.
The game content world
It's
from
not
all
moving as
angles,
much as
building
one
a
might
competitive game with a
assume.
tournament system built in, a co-op system, and a
It's not
custom
really
game
doing a
system, of course.
lot.
This was the same formula that StarCraft 1 and later on Warcraft 3 would follow,
Because it has
which led to their
hits.
immense successes. But even the IGN writers were asking for something more, without necessarily asking for it directly, talking about how Warcraft had heroes, StarCraft had cool concept missions, and what was Stormgate gonna have? If their
Yeah,
desire
but I
was to
don't-
be compared to the
I don't
likes
wanna
of the
use the
games we
camera to
just
face
mentioned,
track.
they were going to have to come correct in all aspects
This does have that
we've
option.
outlined. Only initially
It's
showcasing teasings
fascinating.
of the second faction alongside the first, the Vanguard. Think like Terran from StarCraft would be the announcement of the second faction in Stormgate, August 2023. This faction
you for
seemed
the follow,
very
Mike Phantom.
Zerg-like, with the ability
Thank
to
you
spread
very
the
much.
shroud instead of creep, which functioned
Mike
similar to
Phantom
the
for
creep
the
in Circuit.
follow.
But,
Even though right now I'm just kind of
worse,
fucking
the
around,
creeper shroud is
trying to
far less
understand this
useful in Stormgate,
program.
but we're gonna talk
I
about
paid
that
$8
more later
for
during the
it, so
gameplay section.
God knows I
Having
am
some
going
similarities
to
from
have
well-known
to
factions
figure
and
it
borrowing
out.
elements from other RTS games wasn't a bad
But
idea,
I just
but
want to
it was
make it cute
important
enough.
Stormgate would develop their
Let me go
own
find the
identity as
blink.
well. Something that would be hard with how much they were leaning into the similarities here. And leaning into similarities was also harming how creative they could be and actually
Okay, open and
unique
closed.
they could have each faction
Blink.
play, meaning that many of them
Blink
played
exists
kind of like
right
the same,
there.
and there wasn't that much variety in
Eyeballs.
build order. I think putting more connectivity between the world mechanics, heroes, and the powers the game features, which each faction has a set of unique ones,
How do they
would have
work?
helped here, as well as putting more effort into the tooltip lore, and, well, the upcoming campaign, which would be a ripe proving ground for building the world and lore for the game too. Well, if it was
Open.
good. While Stormgate would have an early alpha, I wouldn't join the picture until closed beta, which I was invited to sometime in November of 2023. I had signed up to this, perhaps being a creator who is a big fan gave me a bit of a push. The early playtesting I got to experience was rough, but so was the alpha testing I did in StarCraft 2. Though rougher in elements of like visuals and polish, which kind of should be
It does get
expected
O
because it's a smaller
and
company, so
A,
I gave them the benefit of the doubt.
but it doesn't really
To be
get
honest, though,
E
for a closed
very
beta
much.
test, a proper one even, I was impressed with the foundation of Stormgate thus far, and thought they could certainly build from it and had a plan to do such.
See?
Despite their dozens of millions in funding, however,
Or I
Stormgate
guess
was
you
pushed to a Kickstarter December
could
5th, 2023. Which is
adjust
usually a
that.
move done by those who already have a budget merely to build an audience and get some community
Where's
pre-started.
screen?
It's also fantastic marketing, especially when your project, likely inevitably, if properly
Okay,
backed,
value
of course, smashes
screen.
the Kickstarter money amount that you need to. The problems would arise, though, surrounding the Kickstarter, leading all the way up to the official launch of the game. First, the Kickstarter would talk about how the
How
project was
loud
being
does
fully funded,
screaming have
which
to
was a
be?
good sign, but would later be proven to not be true when communications director Gerald Valordia would state defensively that the game was funded.
I don't
to
know how
starting early
loud I
access.
have to speak to get to
Worse, the money maneuvering wouldn't stop
scream.
there.
Okay,
Despite
no,
having
sorry.
over $30 million
Please
in funding and
excuse the
succeeding on
volume.
a $2.3 million crowdfunding on Kickstarter, Frost Giant would apparently need more money. They would attempt to do this by utilizing an indie website platform Start Engine, where they would value their
Actually,
company
I'm
at
gonna
a
guess
whopping
maybe it is
$150
configured
million
by
at
via
$26 a share. Not only did this campaign dramatically fail, raising only about $480,000, it would show us that perhaps things weren't as they seemed behind the scenes. How was a company who hadn't launched a product yet already running out of so much money and having so little to show for it, and needing so much more? And why on earth do they seem so delusional
State
already?
aggregator.
Stormgate's early access release date would be set for
Dang.
later in the year, in August of 2024.
This is interesting.
And something didn't really sit right with me in hindsight. Why was a company
No
kickstarted
idea what I'm
with
looking at.
investor funding launching into early access? You have no idea where the company's
Mouse.
actual allegiance lies. It's not the player base, because they have actual investors with investment funding. And then there's the Kickstarter stuff that they have to actually satisfy. And then the early access player base on Steam. Not only did it come across as super scummy, Thanos-level monetization gauntlet
Branch
stuff, it also leads
on
credence to the
number.
idea that they were running out of money and needed to monetize early
Value.
access.
I don't
This
know.
was
There's so
confusing
many
to many
fucking things
fans
here.
such as myself, as they were wondering why did a free-to-play game have an early access that was paid? But like with the Kickstarter and their Ultimate Editions, Frost Giant was promising that early support would be rewarded and you would end up with a better deal in the end. If only that was ultimately true, pun intended. Frost Giant seemed more
Don't say
focused
if.
on business-related activities and then putting in the groundwork to build their game out. That's how I felt, and I rarely talk about my feelings. At least that's what my therapist said. I mean, this game was set to launch in a year, and they barely just introduced their third faction. And not only was it not done,
Value
it was
false,
hilariously
value is
overpowered in
true.
testing when it was introduced. To the point
Where
that
does it
I
get
don't
that
even know how they
value?
didn't balance the basics of that out. And the other two
Whoops.
factions weren't
I
done
forgot
yet,
deleted
with the
whatever
game
value
terminating
that was.
currently at
That's
tier
annoying.
3, but realistically
Value.
tier 2 with how slim pickings tier
False
3
true.
was.
What does
But
it
anyway, the
mean?
third faction was announced, the Celestials faction. This faction would copy aspects of the Protoss with a tech-looking focus and lasers and stuff, but honestly played
True.
quite differently, which might have made them a little bit more of a struggle to balance. But at least they were taking a risk. They could actually move their main base, had flying builders, and had a strong unit focus.
Oh, so that's what.
While the Infernals were Zerg-like,
When
as I
she's
stated, and
quote
utilized
unquote
their
in the
fast-moving
yell
cheat units to
state.
pressure the map and accrue more creep, the Vanguard were Terran-like, being quite well-rounded, and allowing for arguably the most
Everything
variety in
more
gameplay.
shaky, and the
Celestials
mouth
were
is
the most
bigger, of
unique,
course.
and with that came some interesting
One thing is
balancing
that I would put the
They were in
mouse
many ways a more
behind the
advanced
mic.
Protoss, which seemed to
But
be
okay.
kind of interesting. Whereas the other two factions are pretty cookie-cutter copies, which is a shame. I think the Celestials show that the team had at least some creativity, even though
mouse
their
shape.
entrance into the world is not even explained.
Where did-
I would like
okay,
to see them
well-
lean more into that with the other two factions. Though I say some because I don't get why the Celestials are still even so standard ground unit focused. Though they would add some cool things later on, like the Carnivex, which is pretty cool, but I don't necessarily
If I
know if
delete
it
these.
fits as a Celestial. We have to talk about something.
€1
and that's appealing to super niche or
filter.
competitive fans of a game.
Wait, what does that mean?
It's just usually a foolhardy endeavor. And I
I mean,
said
it's
some of that in
something.
Stormgate. Why was a game like this already so much focused on competition, including in balancing, before they were even close to launch?
Silence.
I mentioned this in my StarCraft 2 video, but despite StarCraft 2 being built for esports in many ways, StarCraft 1 in the end had a much longer
But
and
what
more
other-
popular
what
overall
other
esports
lip sync
success.
mode
That's because
do
the
you
game wasn't
have?
made for competition. It was adapted for it. There's a difference. Players built
Must
their own
it-
maps, tournament systems, formats, and even
Bind
competition.
construct.
And this drove StarCraft to become a national sport video game in
Imagine if
Korea,
I could
where it
actually
still
learn to
reigns
use
on
all
the top
this.
10 list today in 2026.
Input.
Stormgate had seemingly fallen into the same problems of
Microphone.
StarCraft 2, and this wasn't
Generator.
totally surprising given the fact that the game had at least a dozen of the
Neural.
same developers.
Oh,
or
maybe
probably
the cherry
less,
lip
since
sync
they never
instead.
mentioned the other ones. They had built a game for competition, without actually building out everything around it first. StarCraft 2 didn't even launch with a full custom game tool system, nor co-op, for example. Stormgate could have learned that lesson, and should have learned that lesson, and was supposed to go into early access with even less than that. The difference being they didn't even have
No,
the
you still think that
pre-existing
everything is
world and
ah.
success to lean on like StarCraft 2 had.
Why?
The talent Blizzard had at the time too was just absolutely insane, and you can see that in the Fallout. Nor did they have the actual experience or proper support even just outside like monetary stuff. Deciding to go after the smallest part of an RTS audience, the competitive audience, and I say that as a fan, was not a good choice. Because it means you're only looking to slice
Delete.
the smallest piece of a pie, when the biggest parts of the
No.
RTS audience, the biggest piece of the pie, might shock you, but it's the single player gamers. Hell, I've played more Age of Empires 2 all the way to 4 against CPUs more than I've played against actual players. Especially due to the scenarios in those games. But this is proven by looking at the sales of the most popular
Okay,
RTS
so
games
you're
and looking
cherry
at how
lip
many
syncing.
players even go online,
You
let alone
think
play
everything
consistently.
is the
I
same.
realize this genre is sold
Which
largely
is
on flavor, the strength of the
unfortunate.
campaign, AI scenarios, and AI, and custom game options. The things that Stormgate was lacking in. Early access early backers release would happen July 30th, 2024. And if you are as confused by that sentence as I was, we're in good company. Or bad. Or whatever. Early backer meant for people who essentially pre-ordered a free game that would grant them
So
some
this is
benefits,
not
such as
very
playing earlier.
good
The
lip
problem with
sync
this was
choice
that many
because it
players
thinks
were
everything
confused
is the
as to when
same.
the actual
It
FTP
says right
launch
here
or free-to-play launch was
everything.
supposed to come.
Everything is.
And also doing it this way puts another paywall on your content.
I don't know.
Other people have barely
Score?
gotten the chance to even test in the testing phases. The thing with feedback is
What are
you
all
get a
these?
lot of
Why
it,
does it
and
have
most of it is
X, A,
trash and has
B,
to be discarded.
C,
The other not so
D,
trash
E, F,
stuff
G, I, J,
has to
K?
be parsed. The rest
What?
is the good stuff. But that stuff's rare in my experience as a QA tester for 15 years. But it must be dealt with. Because if you don't deal with it, you will be slow to address the concerns that plague your player base. The key,
That is
though,
a-
is not
I don't
losing
think
your
it's a
sight
very
on your own
good
vision,
one.
even with the input from the outside. The early input I had myself and saw repeated for Stormgate was rough, much like the closed beta I already experienced. This was worrying to me when the game was set to launch rather soon. Early access or not, that tag doesn't actually stop your game from being taken seriously as a product whenever you actually charge people for things. Especially when you already had that level of money involved and crowdfunding.
Interesting.
Stormgate felt like a pared-down version of Warcraft 3, and that game launched over 20 years ago. That's not a bar you should be unable to beat or pass in terms of like a pure feature set list. Worse, the game in early access still looked worse than StarCraft 2 did in alpha. And worse isn't just about shiny graphics and nice looking things. It's about having distinctive looks and memorable looks. And it's not like Frost Giant could just throw more money at the problem.
Alright, I'll stop
it turns out,
playing
according
now.
to a dedicated Redditor
I know,
detective, they were running
I know
out of
basically
money
what I
based on
need
their
to
projections.
combine.
This would target them to run out of money in the spring of 2025, which doesn't totally seem out of the question, especially with what we know later on. That's why it's a dangerous gambit to be blowing through millions before
So
you've even had
I don't
your
need to separate
foundation
out that
solidly
much.
placed
I
and figured
won't
out.
animate
But as you will see later on, the problem usually comes from the top.
But I
And in the
don't
case
think
of
I'll.
Stormgate leadership,
Well,
were
I could
making
try for a
questionable
lip sync.
decisions and leading the game into a questionable direction. A few months would pass,
Oh,
and the actual
my
free-to-play
booty.
early access
Oh.
launch would drop for Stormgate,
I don't-
August 13th, 2024, launching the game on Steam officially. Stormgate would
I'm
manage
very
to score a
sore.
62%
Fucking
score
ball.
on Steam, giving it some mixed reviews. But first, let's cover the critical reception before going
Sawing
back to the player
wood,
base.
and I was
Critical
like
reception for
crouching and
Stormgate
getting
was
into weird
interesting, starting
positions,
with
trying to
IGN,
find some
and the
kind of
same writer I just
angle of
criticized
a
regarding
leverage.
tepid VTMB2 or Vampire the Masquerade
Not
Bloodlines
the
2
best
review without
workout
much substance to it.
by far.
IGN would state that
Just going
Stormgate
outside
was what was
and
next,
doing
and then
random
preface
shit.
it with, well, they hope it is.
Oh,
What
then
kind of
going
critical
and doing
voice
it
is that? How can
again
you
the
publish
next day
that?
instead
Then
of
they
giving
talk
yourself a
about how
rest
the
day.
game is very
Because
StarCraft 2 or Warcraft
yeah,
3,
what's the logic
yet
in a
lacks the
rest
budget
day?
and features of those games. There's also no
quest
mention about how much content is actually missing.
Main
Like ranked
quest
2v2,
is go to
3v3,
work and
4v4 period.
you know,
Wasn't this supposed to be a
days
social
off or
focused
purely
game?
for
Where
side
was the
quests, I
custom games or
suppose.
custom game maker? Anyway, IGN would finish their review with a 7 out of 10, stating that the game still had miles to go, but pushes the classic RTS formula forward. And sorry, I just don't see how. Even if it was good at what it does and did, which was arguable, and I will argue that in a second, what new and innovative does Stormgate even bring? Camps already existed in Warcraft, towers existed in StarCraft, etc. The Escapist would give us a much more realistic review, claiming that the game is so bare bones and the campaign was not personally investment worthy at all. Day 9, who is a big name in the RTS community, especially StarCraft, who did some promotional material with the game, would come out plainly calling the game a 1 or 2 out of 10, a totally abysmal score, claiming that it was really unfinished in all aspects of the game. Campaign, PvP, factions, you name it. Tier 3 was also missing and Celestials were a work-in-progress faction. More complaints would be echoed from the player base, myself included, including the fact that the cinematics in the game were just totally lackluster, and that's me being nice, especially from the
I wonder
expectations
if
that were set
Dauntless.
from the
Let me see.
initial announcement trailer. Worse, the
Is
overall
Dauntless
visuals
still
in the game
a
were totally
game
forgettable,
in
including a total boring and
2026?
dull map environment behind
Also, I
it.
don't remember
The new models on the units were not really
hearing
impressive for an Unreal Engine 5 game either,
YouTube
looking less
check
distinctive
recently.
and having less distinct
querrieoh
visuals,
says.
including
okay,
their
so
particle effects than games from 20 years before. The early access thing was a gamble,
There's been no one.
and seemingly only a gamble made purely from a monetization or money perspective. That's because Blizzard, which you guys should know, as ex-developers of Blizzard, created magic with some of these games by having extensive testing periods. Sure, they had way more money to do that than you, but
It's
you
alright.
knew that already. Why spend money on frivolous things
You-
like focusing on a game's competition
the
scene
only
early on
one.
when it lacked basic game
Which is
modes?
fine,
And why
just
showcase
fine.
yourself so much
Not
and
to
ask
single
for
you
more
out.
funding when you don't even have something to prove yet? Meaning your product can't prove what you're
Even
actually
Kick
preaching.
lies
You
to
lack
me and
basic
says
game
there's
modes
2
and have this
people.
totally mediocre
Counting
campaign.
me as one.
These
Alright, I was
things
gonna
are
look up
more
if Dauntless is
important
still a
than the
game.
competition scene and everything else,
Dauntless.
and doubly more important than trying to go after so many creators, especially totally random ones like
Autopodia's Grace
Asmongold.
says,
How on earth is
I've
that
been
the best
singled out for the
mouthpiece for the
past
game?
2
and
hours.
a
I'm
genre he
sorry to
doesn't even
single you out,
understand?
sir.
There's probably like a dozen smaller creators
let's
from the
see.
RTS world that would have been much
The
better suited for
Dauntless.
things like that,
Oh
and
no, the
cheaper.
Dauntless
There was just
subreddit.
so much money being spent. The studio
Oh,
was
it's
in Orange
dead.
County, California, where average developers are making like nearly 6 figures or more.
It
Oh, I
died
heard that
7
many from the
months
company work
ago.
from home. And was it
Fuck,
even
I
being
love that
spent in the right
game.
places, all this money? I can
And I
only
was so
imagine bad
endgame
decision-making
too.
from
I was like
developers or
pretty
investment funding
overpowered. I
pushing
put so
things on
much
a timely
time into
timeline
it.
being the culprit here. But regardless, once you have a poor review on Steam, early access or not,
Is there any
people form this
merch?
dark cloud that surrounds your game as they
Let's
refuse to
see.
give it word-of-mouth referrals, harming its community and
Okay,
player
there's
base, and even
posters, but they're
batting
all
the
sold
game further
out.
than that to keep players further away, truth or not. Things, unfortunately, would only get worse when a slew of drama would start spewing from
The
Frost,
cosmetic
likely not helping their already struggling early access title
edition
either.
is all
For
sold
example,
out.
there's a strong hunch from some Reddit detectives that Tim Morton, the production guy turned CEO of the
And
company,
all the
you
servers
guys
are
know how much I
closed, so
love
you
that,
can't
had a sock
fucking
puppet
do
account and was
anything.
keeping his identity hidden. Seriously.
Okay, well,
Apparently
sad
someone
shit,
named
sad
Void
shit.
Legacy had been posting in defense of the company for a while, and this person is heavily rumored to be the CEO of the company. What the fuck? How unprofessional, totally cringe, and honestly totally RTS. Worse, Tim Morton would come out to address the concerns of the game, while basically dismissing them in the same
Okay,
token,
well, that's
even going as far to be
pretty sad.
mocking about people who are trying to give up, some advice and stuff like that. Now, there's a slew of bodies and cases that I've already investigated, where the culprit largely is a producer from a former large company who had some success. A typical role player in the company, just doing their thing, now having this massive amount of influence and wielding it questionably. There's not a lot to be impressed by when it comes to Tim
there's
Morton
probably no
and his
game
whole handling
like
of
it.
Stormgate. More
I mean,
drama
other
would
than
spring up, as
obviously
apparently
Monster
Frost
Hunter,
Giant
but it's
had been
not the
creating
same
fake reviews,
vibe.
and there were some strong
It's big
accusations
sad,
were
big
backing this
sad.
up. In time for a Steam sale,
Well, I
apparently
asked a
some actual
question
developers
and
at
they
Frost
found
Giant
my own
were
answer.
leaving phony reviews, some without even having enough playtime to have a proper review, making it even more obvious. Tim Morton himself was reportedly a part of this, and yet took the time to insult people trying to understand the game's shaky direction. Look, Frost Giant theoretically had some time, with the full release of the game set to launch later in the year. But with how things have already been fumbled, would players even come back to the game that lacked more personality than an Unreal Engine community project? But this over-competitive focus of the game made worse by the fact that the only thing in the game was 1v1 essentially. It was turning players off hard, as the player base would drop to just 200 players peak. It's nearly impossible to play a game as a new player when a player base is in the low thousands, as StarCraft 2 has already largely shown. If it wasn't for co-op and mostly custom games and custom campaigns, StarCraft 2 wouldn't even have a population comparable to indie titles today. Stormgate had some co-op, but lacked mostly everything else. So its first impressions for players was that it was objectively worse than the other game that they were coming from, or that this game had just been compared to. Which means you just pissed off a ton of nerds, and trust me, you don't want to do that. I know what that's like. The visual upgrade would happen for the game spring 2025, and although there were some quality upgrades here, at least by comparison, that's the problem. They were working with dirt before, so prettying up dirt isn't that much prettier. I mean, compare this to Tempest Rising, a game that had way less of a budget, and their game looks way better and more distinctive. Look, I haven't seen anyone wax poetic about Stormgate's art. It's heavily criticized by players and critics alike. That means that your art team just didn't work. You either get rid of most of them, or try to bring in a new team to bring in some light. Hire another developer as a third-party artist, or just accept that your game isn't going to work. Because having charming art styles and memorable character models is what makes an RTS game a great one. And when that much money is involved, you kind of need a great one. Think of the monkey unit in Age of Empires, the vultures in StarCraft 1.
Would Hades be as popular if Zagreus was not sexy hunky boy? I think not. If not for the artwork of Hades, it probably would not have gotten as popular. IMO.
They're so memorable, I can say most of them by heart. I read you, sir.
I read you, sir.
Need a light? You get the idea. Stormgate, even with these new visuals, was lacking that soul. A proper world and lore built from that, where the art system interacts and complements it. And, characters throughout the world, whether through things like quips, also just bring some levity. And levity is important in such a game. These things just feel so disconnected in Stormgate. Even the hero units are totally forgettable. These were moments that Stormgate could have focused on and shined on, even if it lacked the other aspects. Moments that players like myself, even back from the peons in Warcraft 2, expected. Yes, sir. Yes, boss. These are non-negotiables. Instead, we have this mechanically decent husk of a game that doesn't make you want to come back for more unless you just feel like going hard in the paint. They could have just decided to build this really mechanical game that lacked everything else, and then people would have still been impressed and ready to see more, which is kind of what we expected, but instead they tried to build the whole game and failed at that. Early on, Stormgate talked about making a game that worked in team play as well, and was more balanced there. Something that was kind of lacking in RTS games. Instead, we have a game in 2025 that still doesn't have a 3v3 mode or more. These false promises, Stormgate would finally drop their alpha, to the terrain editor they had, June 2025, in time for the upcoming full release. Where was this particular piece of content, and why wasn't it a #1 priority? Think about it. You could have had people building maps for you for 3 years. Imagine how good they could have gotten. I mean, even just recently when they released the Stormgate editor and freed things up, someone made a fully functioning MOBA. Imagine if that was someone's first experience playing the game. Now, if you have less than 70 players on average playing the game, you need a community to fuel the community, of course. But if you have to give them tools for that, and you can't give them tools after they've already left. And you've only kind of given them tools because the trigger system wasn't even fully implemented either. That's why I think StarCraft 2 had a late resurgence in that aspect, because it lacked a proper editor at launch and also lacked good custom game makers because of their ridiculous policies. They would still eventually though end up with some great custom maps, whether arcade style or not. Custom maps that Stormgate's devs could have lifted as ideas and presented them as more game modes or custom games themselves. There's just a general lack of care and thought when discussing the actions of Frostgiant in relation to the player base and their desires for the game. And if a company is continuing to be disconnected like that for long, and already blowing through all their money, it's not going to end well. Everything was riding on the full release of the game, which took place August 5th, 2025. While many took it easy on Stormgate the first time around, I think many more would actually call the game out for what it was at this point. A tepid upgrade from what existed before, especially with so much lacking in the game. Was it even an upgrade? It didn't have modes and certain mechanics that already existed, and were expected. Well, there's always one exception. Yep, you guessed it. It's another IGN review, from the same writer. They would rate the game higher, at 8 out of 10, and state that Stormgate still has a long road ahead of it, but it's already a special game, combining the familiar and fresh into a satisfying RTS experience. They would then proceed to repeat their top point, and no, I'm not kidding, it's the same words. How on earth are you rating this game an 8 and in the same breath claiming it's a much improved game as if it's still not good enough? Because you even then admit that the road ahead is still long. This is just like insane glazery. Meanwhile, read the recent player reviews. They're anything but glazy and present real criticism, such as how the game originally charged for a $40 Kickstarter that would give you the Ultimate Edition, and then dropped another, more jam-packed edition on Steam at release. This made many OG supporters feel cheated, and understandably so, especially when you had to purchase the new campaign anyway, even if you previously backed the game. There was just no respect for the audience here. Criticisms were echoing concerning the lack of unit variety as well, and overwhelming ubiquity. And well, the game launched unfinished. I have to say that again, meaning the whole early access crap was just that, it was crap. It's still an unfinished game even at the full launch. And remember, they took so much effort to draw comparisons to games that were incredibly well polished, and then complain when their audiences expected something that was even close to the same. And before people try and defend them, or even Frostgiant does, and says something like, oh, it's not fair, they expected us to be like Blizzard. No, I actually disagree. I think they expected you guys to even just be a level right below, and that would have been just fine. There's no competition in this market. And you can't pull the marketing card and then try to trade it back after people expected to see the results. It wouldn't take long following the launch, and Tim Morton, the company's CEO, was already threatening possible layoffs, following the game's massive underperformance. While this is understandable when a game falters, you still don't get participation points for a failed project. Sometimes games don't work. Sometimes art doesn't work. And that's why we chronicle it here on the Death of a Game series. While launch would bring back up the peak numbers to nearly 1,000 players, within 2 months the population would drop to below 100 players peak, becoming essentially an inoperable matchmaking pool or game. Tim Morton would come out a month later and claim that in order for Stormgate to survive and, well,
Did you say something
Frostgiant
that got
in general, they had to make a
blocked,
new
or?
game. They were not really forthright with the details, but would claim that Stormgate would continue to see updates and theoretically, as stated, even more due to the supposed theoretical success of the next theoretical game. Look, there's probably a good chance they are actually working on a new game,
it's not
so it's
the
not
most
that theoretical. Since I haven't heard about
complicated
Firemans
of
yet,
work.
but how much faith do you have in that new game anyway? When you have the CEO of the company making excuses for the game, claiming it was market forces and people being unreasonable.
I know, I'm
and
having
I
a
don't
lot
wanna
of
bother putting
thoughts.
up that
I'm just
nonsense on
kind
the
of,
screen.
just kind of
search Tim
vibing.
Morton Stormgate, and it will probably come up on Medium.com. But you can't grow as a company or make the right decisions with that kind of attitude. And it was a
Shirison
further
says,
spit in the face of
No
those who
thinky, only
actually
stinky.
invested into your game. Throughout its
I smell
multiple
like
investment rounds, remember?
smoke
Things would go
and
quiet for about a month before, in a
arsony.
surprising turn of events, and welcomed, regardless of the
But no
circumstances,
lighter
would be
fluid.
announced a community patch and update. Announced in the early
It did
December,
burn
and
like a
then set to
whole
launch
Amazon
fully
box
December
though to get
30th,
that fire going.
2025, to which it did. This community patch meant that the developers were basically no longer working on the game, putting the game into what we call maintenance mode, and then electing a janitor meant to look after whatever was left on the game, which is usually like a sole developer or a couple of them. The same thing happened to many other games, including Blizzard games like Heroes of the Storm. So that made what actually came next, which was a fantastic update by the way, a bit bittersweet. This massive update, made in tandem with the game's
How you
hardcore
doing,
community, since that was
Shirison?
basically all that was left anyway, would add 30 new community-made maps, 4 new units, ranked 2v2, and would fully
Yeah,
open
it's
up the
acceptable.
map editor, which had launched back in the summer. This update truly is the
Shirison
best thing
says,
to hit Stormgate.
"My back
bringing
hurts a
far
lot."
more variety
Dang,
and
me
parity to the
too.
game. But you can
What
tell
have
when a
you
player
been
base
doing?
is snoozing on a
Shirison
game
says,
when you have an update such
"Can
as
barely
this,
move."
barely move the population up to
Well, I
147
can move
peak
at least, so.
and under 40 still on average. I have to give the community
My
credit
butt
though for seemingly
hurts.
putting in more work than developers did, and even doing a better
But I'm
job.
alive. What'd you
It's
do
more
to
than what I
yourself?
said regarding how much better it would have been to have this community involved in map making years before, when they ended up
Shirison
making the
says,
majority of the maps
"Oh,
in
I
the
get
game
low
in this
back problems
update
and gives
and
me
the
pain
best
for
maps in
weeks."
RTS history anyway. But it was seemingly too
Low,
little too late. The player
like
base had moved
randomly,
on, and
I'm
that's
guessing?
especially typical with overly competitive games that lack other ways to enjoy and experience the game. Because your options are get burnt out or get beat up. Those are your options. It hasn't proven the best formula for outright attracting new players, which is why there are some truth to the
Shirison
rumors that
says,
RTS games haven't
"Nah,
been
usually
working as
happens
much.
if I sleep
That's why
weird, then
fighting
it just
games, for
gets
example,
worse."
have added systems to try and fix this.
And did you
including
sleep
ranked ranks,
weird lately?
tutorials, training modes, and etc. This is where I think that RTSs have been kind of in the Stone Ages regarding that. And part of that is that the
Shirison
gameplay in the
says,
campaign is nothing like the
course.
gameplay online due to meta and strategy. And of course, the campaign
Well,
is
have
usually
you
on a fixed
tried
map with
not
a certain amount of outcomes. It might sound like it's
sleeping
disjointed, but
weird?
I actually think that the campaigns need to evolve to attract non-competitive PvP players, and better prepare them for custom games and ranked ladder. Stormgate didn't have that, so if you try to play right now, even in the lower elo brackets, you're probably going to get washed for a little while until you learn the game. And once you start learning it, you can only play against the players who have already mastered it. Good luck. The difference between a silver or like low bronze player who has a couple of games versus like one who has thousands of games is still a pretty big gap. I mean, there's a reason that StarCraft 2 was never that good for casual players, and it was regarding decisions Blizzard took in development when making the game and post-launch. That game took years to improve at that aspect, but due to its name recognition and popularity was able to and see the success of that growth as well. With Stormgate, you had an even worse casual game, and for some reason, so many video game developers in all sorts of genres just don't seem to understand that without a casual game, you basically have nothing. The RTS markets were games like Tempest Rising, which reportedly had a much smaller budget than Stormgate by the way, and is a much better game in my experience, including with polish and overall look and feel, would have their devs claim that only 5% of their audience would even play competitively. Other assessments by other games and pundits suggest 80% of the audience or more preferring non-competitive activities. I think it's because RTS games are difficult, they're intense, and people have then extrapolated that, and the success of games like Age of Empires, StarCraft, and Warcraft that probably went outside of whatever bubble they were in, competitively, have skewed that even more. Or players from the outside think that, oh, everyone playing these games is super competitive, when that's not the case. Wanna know how much competitive ladder I played in Warcraft 3, period? 0. Wanna know how many times I played Helm's Deep? You don't want to actually know. See what I mean though? The timeline has ended, fellow detectives, and this case has come to an end. While I don't relish in covering Stormgate earlier than I had hoped to, or intended, it was necessary for me as a massive fan of RTS games and someone who covered the game that the game was basically modeled after already, StarCraft 2. And for the people who think that shilling is even like a serious word in my vocabulary in my trench coat, my series is built on covering lesser known games and failures, and sometimes iconic hits. Why would I not want to cover such a major failure like Stormgate? It's the perfect case for me, especially since I tested the game early on. But speaking of cases, let's do our thing and finish this case first. The music is playing, detectives, and it's time to answer the question as to why Stormgate failed to garner an audience and maintain one.
Detective Conan music.
And personality. It lacks polish and fine-tuning. Improper community building and focus. Poor general company and game direction. It focused too much on being competitive. The death of comparison and shadow of those that came before. And just like that, like the flash it exploded from, it's gone in another flash. Stormgate, another attempt at an RTS, in an attempt to revive the genre back to its former glory or whatever, became another case added to the filing cabinet. While I usually like to end these videos with words of advice or some positive encouragement, I don't think the devs at Frost Giant, at least those in charge, would read or take it to heart anyway. So instead I will say congrats old school RTS gamer haters who will shit on anything that's not their favorite game. You guys at least got what you wanted. For the rest of us, we got a mediocre game that was supposed to build upon StarCraft 2. No future Blizzard RTS in sight, and despite the upcoming Dawn of War 4, some slim pickings in the world of RTS. But there's a silver lining in all of this. Strategy games as a whole are doing
God of War
just fine,
4.
just not the whole real-time kind. But as long as strategy games and grand strategy
What the fuck
continue
is
to do
that?
well, I think
All
we're
I know
always
is
gonna end up
God of
seeing
War
one-offs here and there in the world of
2018
the
or
RTS
16,
genre, a subgenre of the strategy
and then
game genre.
Ragnarok.
Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments below why you think Stormgate failed or your impressions with the game, in case I missed anything or you'd like to share your thoughts. Until the next case.
Hiya, friends! It's me, Buzzworth Billy! What's everyone's favorite party platforming game featuring co-op dungeons filled with hack and slash action, perplexing puzzles, and gut-shredding guitars? Say it with me!
Last year, 20th Century Pictures released Alien Romulus, the 7th film in the Alien franchise. After Ridley Scott's two divisive prequel films, this was an attempt to bring the series back to basics. It had a classic Alien plot. A group of working-class people are stuck on board a spaceship with a bunch of face-huggers and xenomorphs. It did classic Alien stuff. It looked like classic Alien movies. It had a brunette female protagonist who survived to the end. And it was the most well-received Alien movie in 40 years. It made more than 4 times its budget and received largely positive reviews. The movie was a genuine hit, and a sequel was immediately announced. And while I did not have a bad time watching Alien Romulus, it depressed me. The Alien franchise had
Mostly
always been
positive. I dislike the ones with seeds, and they need to be washed so they don't have that aftertaste of like chemical spray.
Of Ellen Ripley and her encounters with a terrifying alien species.
Pretty tasty.
But beyond that, each one did wildly different things. There was a sci-fi
Green or
slasher,
purple?
then a marine action movie,
It's a,
then
I
a
think I
prison
prefer red.
drama, and finally, space basketball.
So I guess purple. I think the green are maybe too tart, but I think I might also like them if they're not too tart.
It's impossible to deny
And I don't know what grape ape is. And don't send it to me. I don't want to know.
Risks and tried new things.
Literally, generally okay. I have not had grapes in like a few months. In the summer, I had cherries and grapes, and I have not had anything since then. In terms of fruit, I've had bananas, avocados, and then frozen raspberries and frozen pomegranate arrows.
And the wacky shenanigans
And that is the extent of my fruit. And lime juice. A lot of lime juice from concentrate. Make sure I don't get that scurvy. I have Discord shut down, so I'd have to go on my phone.
With Romulus and the recent TV series Alien Earth, the franchise
Which I
has
am
now
doing.
arrived exactly where Star Wars has been for years.
Get
Like
grape
Star Wars,
aped.
it's producing new installments, but
It is a
instead of moving forward,
purple ape with a green jacket, which I don't recognize. I don't know if it's from some ad,
for the first time in the
from some
franchise's
company,
history, not counting the two
from some
movies,
cartoon.
it's not doing anything new. Romulus
Yeah,
has
and that's
no
another thing. I have no
unique
idea what
hook
that
or
is.
setting, just a repeat
Hanna
of ones
Barbera
from
is
earlier
either.
films. The aesthetic and the tone
Ooh,
are
I'm gonna
based
put
on the
my
first
hood
film.
up.
It even quotes famous lines from earlier
I
installments.
need to trap more of my heat. I'm getting a little chilly. Or it could also be that I'm sleepy. I find that when I am nearing my prime bedtime, I begin to feel much colder.
Or risky. It's the only Alien film without a distinct identity or authorial voice.
Hanna-Barbera is the studio
it's
that made all those
the
old
greatest
cartoons,
hits of the
Flintstones,
earlier films,
Jetsons, and all the other
just
failed projects
not
that
as
people
well.
forgot.
In a piece of incredible accidental meta-commentary, the plot of Romulus
I mean,
begins with
I
the
hope
discovery
they're
of
happy.
the wreckage of the
They have a
Nostromo,
legacy.
the ship from the first film that has an alien
Querrieoh
life
says.
form on board. So, to restate that, the story is literally made from the leftover trash of the first film. And so watching Romulus, I had the terrible thought of...
What was I doing?
Oh no. They're just gonna stay here and do this forever now, aren't they? So like,
Patrick says,
is the next movie gonna be
YouTube
about
chat
a
check.
new crew
Man,
funding
you're
the
not doing
wreckage
your
of the
job that
Romulus
well.
one? Are we just gonna stay here
Not a
and do this
meme,
forever,
but-
over and over again? Like, for most of the past decade, Star Wars has largely been telling stories within the same
Algophidius Gray
60-year
says,
period in the
YouTube
series
chat check.
timeline, answering
You're not
questions
even
that
on
no one ever
YouTube.
really had. Like, what did Obi-Wan Kenobi do when he was living on Tatooine? Or, how did Han Solo get the Millennium Falcon? Ignoring the important questions like, what do you think Jabba the Hutt's skin feels like? And now, Alien
Now
is
you're
here
speaking
answering
pig Latin.
questions like, what happened to the pieces of the ship after it self-destructed? I personally do not care. And with these and other franchises, as much as I've always considered myself a fan of them, as much as I've enjoyed some of
How do you
the
feel about
installments
the
they
new
made in the
Animal
past 10
Farm,
years,
animated Animal
I find myself
Farm
wondering
movie?
if this is all we're going to
I
get.
really don't know how to feel. It seems like it has potential, but a lot of people are seeing it as...
I heard stuff about it and how bad it sounds. Algophidius Gray says, YouTube chat check.
Thank you so much for giving me some YouTube engagement. I appreciate it greatly. I had to sit through a trailer for it while watching the animated movie David, about David and the Goliath.
It's completely different from the original source.
Probably true. I mean, there is like that weird like techno lesbian looking lady, and okay, I truly believe they should have named it something different instead, like based off of Animal Farm. I think that could have taken away a lot of the like inherent hatred. Because yeah, like the first thing people think are you're killing like a very important moral story,
and welcome back to the show.
And like making fun of it.
This is going to be a smaller, quieter episode than the last few. Those were honestly exhausting to make. Emma and Nobbles are already off for Thanksgiving, and I've only got a couple hours to shoot this before I have to catch a train upstate.
Alright, thank you so much for sticking around. I hope you have a good night.
Number one, the plush
Sleep
novels
well.
are finally in stock and shipping right now. Christmas is coming up, so I don't know, if you know a kid who has never watched
See you
the show
around.
before, buy them a plush novels and watch them go, what the hell is this thing? And number two, I usually wear sweaters from one of our beloved sweater sponsors. Also, we're always looking for more. But today, we have something different and even more special. Right now, I am wearing a sweater hand-knit by Ellen Butters, a viewer who watched our episode on sweaters and movies and reached out to ask if she could knit me a custom sweater. Obviously, I said yes, and here it is. I think it looks amazing, it fits perfectly, it's so comfortable. I really love it. This is probably the best thing to come out of these videos since the time I got invited to the Mission Impossible premiere and met Tom Cruise. Ellen does not have a store, so sorry, but you can't buy one of these. I just want to say, Ellen, thank you so much. But anyway, the reason we are here today, legacy sequels. Well, sort of. We just made 2 episodes about legacy sequels. Stories that appeared to be definitively over, but returned decades later to say, no. And as much as plenty of sequels justify their existence by saying something new about the characters or just being so fucking kick-ass that you really can't deny them, what we've seen over and over are series continuing far past their logical endpoints. When there's no more story to tell, often after the original actors and characters have moved on, and yet they keep going on in a hollow endeavor to maintain the brand. And as everything seems to keep going on forever, it's depriving us of arguably the most important part of storytelling.
The ending.
In 2018, Amanda Hess wrote a piece for the New York Times titled "The
Everyone
End of
sucks at endings,
about our
okay?
modern
Stranger Things ending sucked.
querrieoh says,
Lost ending sucked. No one ever wants there to be an
querrieoh,
ending.
you leveled up to level 5.
Wow. Cool. Like it's like none of these writers remember how to end something. They probably won't even be able to write their own eulogies or obituaries. They just can't end anything. Okay, that's why I love anime that's one season and it like everything is succinct or everything wraps up perfectly, but it could still have a season 2. Well, I think a lot of it is that anime they never really know if they'll get the season 2, so they need to wrap up cleanly just in case. Cuz kind of like okay, No Game No Life, it left too much of a cliff. Well, it wasn't even a cliffhanger, but there were a lot of hopes for a continuation and nothing, and it was very sad. So you never know. More writers need to kind of go in with that mindset where if you're only given one season, you need to make it satisfying. You need to go in with the ability to write an ending.
Pop culture's refusal to let anything conclude, which has only gotten worse in the last 7 years. Every franchise returns for a legacy sequel or expands into a never-ending cinematic universe. Every TV show gets a decades-later reboot. Our social media platforms are designed to algorithmically deliver us a never-ending feed of content based largely on what we've previously consumed. We are held in a perpetual state of anticipation for what's next, never allowed to sit and reflect on what has passed. And somehow, in all of this, one of the only franchises that has not been revived is the never-ending story. Like, what are we doing here? In the piece, Hess writes, "Didn't endings used to mean something? They imbued everything that came before them with significance, and then they gave us the space to reflect on it all. More than that, they made us feel alive. The story ended, but we did not. This had been true at least since the novel supplanted the oral tradition." In his essay, The Storyteller, Walter Benjamin wrote that the novelist invites the reader to a divinatory realization of the meaning of life by writing finis. He continued, "What draws the reader to the novel is the hope of warming his shivering life with a death he reads about. We needed stories to end so we could make sense of them. We needed characters to die so we could make sense of ourselves." Until recently, cinema was not a medium often used to tell serialized stories. In the very early days of cinema, there were actually movie serials, but they were short and produced quickly and cheaply. Basically, they were a TV show released weekly in movie theaters. But once television arrived, it made those irrelevant. And while there were movie sequels back then, they were episodic and light on continuity, like the Thin Man movies, or the Hope Crosby Road to movies, or Francis the Talking Mule, a franchise with, I kid you not, 7 installments.
Hey, they're raising taxes again.
No one was attempting overarching cinematic sagas back then. You could watch any random one of these movies and understand it just fine. Side note, I was just reading about the Francis the Talking Mule franchise, and I swear to God, it includes actual movies called Francis Goes to West Point, Francis in the Navy, and Francis in the Haunted House. What happened to this country? Anyway, the one notable exception back in the old days was the original Planet of the Apes series. Beginning in 1968 and continuing with 4 sequels over the next 5 years, each one dramatically moved the story forward, assuming that the audience had seen the preceding films. Despite the increasingly low budgets, this series is the closest anything of its era came to the
But he's just a talking mule.
Today.
Francis
the next
takes a
major
hostage.
exception, of course, was the original Star Wars trilogy, the success of which inspired the revival of Star Trek, with the cast of the original 1960s TV show returning for a series
Francis
of
negotiates
7
with the
movies, essentially
IRS
doing what they had done on
crisis
TV,
hostage
but on a much larger
negotiators.
scale. But the true turning point came.
Francis fails negotiations.
Star Wars returned for another trilogy, telling one big story across 3 movies. Movies that were totally normal and
in the
loved by
context of Francis being a talking mule, Francis gets ridden at the IRS jail.
doubleheader announcing the advent of 2 huge franchises, Harry Potter
That's what I
and
joke
Lord
over
of the
there.
Rings. Now, I've brought up this event before, since it really was such a major turning point in modern cinema, and it really kicked off the IP era that we've been living in ever since. But
maybe
for
the
our
child
conversation
kicked him
today,
first.
the important thing was the commitment to multi-part cinematic stories in a way never attempted before. Like, before the first film in either series had been released, the following one was either in production or already filmed. Now, obviously, both of these were enormous era-defining hits, but now, almost 25 years later, cinematic sagas
I mean, he's
comprised
a
of
mule,
anywhere
can't
from
be that
4 to
hard.
24 movies.
Though I guess he can never have children.
Ironically, as movies became more like TV, TV became more like movies. Production values on shows got so high that the cinematography and visual effects are now usually as good as you'd see in a blockbuster movie, which means that TV shows cost much more to make and take much longer. So instead of a show airing 22 episodes every year, now we're lucky if our parched, thirsty for TV asses get even 10 episodes every 2 years. All of this has often been called the TVification of movies. But I would argue that, especially in the last 15 years, it's really more the comic bookification of movies. Look, enough has been written and said about the impact of the Marvel Cinematic Universe on mainstream cinema. You don't need me to sit here and say for the millionth time, yeah, then everyone tried to make their own cinematic universe as well. But what I actually think is more relevant than the CUs is the larger form of storytelling that Marvel popularized. There had been lots of superhero movies before Iron Man kicked off the MCU. First Superman and Batman movies, and later X-Men and Spider-Man. But they didn't really attempt complex overarching stories through multiple films. They might tease a plot point or a character for the sequel at the end of one movie, like X2 or Spider-Man 2, but they usually just focused on one movie at a time and wrapped the series up after 3 or 4 installments. But that's not how comic books work. Spider-Man has been published continuously since 1962 in what is basically one massive ongoing story that has lasted over 60 years. And unless the comic book industry fully collapses and Marvel stops publishing comics, it will never end. The very nature of mainstream superhero comics from DC and Marvel is that they are designed to run forever. Writers and artists will change countless times, but the ongoing stories of the characters never end. They never get older, and they never die. Well, okay, they do die, but then they come back. And so,
They die a million
pre-MCU,
times.
whenever these characters had been adapted for film, the storytelling was conformed to cinema. Because movies take much longer and require infinitely more money to make than comics do, and you have to consider that actors aren't little drawings on paper, they age and have other projects and usually can't constantly play the same character for decades. Like, can you imagine if we forced Adam West to stay on as Batman for his whole life? I'm just saying that would have been a very different Nolan trilogy. But Marvel Studios changed all of that. We used to get, like, Tobey Maguire playing Spider-Man in 3 movies. And now, we got Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man in 10 movies across 11 years. There were now way more installments, continuity became way more important, and there was always the promise that this was leading somewhere. It was so much closer to the actual ongoing interconnected
I mean, I'm surprised it took an entire cinematic universe and,
Avengers Endgame,
you know,
the
10
self-proclaimed
entries for him to eat the
Infinity
peanuts.
Saga, functions as a season
Alright, who
finale to
comes
the
back as Francis? I nominate
Whatever
a
issues I
disabled
have with that
seal
franchise,
who's always wanted
I
to be a
think
horse.
Endgame largely sticks the landing. It felt satisfying and tied up lots of story
And
threads and character arcs.
now it's a she, and their superpower is shooting peanuts out of their butt.
This entire franchise had been an adaptation of the ongoing comic books published by Marvel for the previous 60 years. And those comic book stories never ends. But while the Marvel Universe is one never-ending story, it's important to
This
note that
guy's
it's also
head is
comprised
shaped
of countless smaller
curiously.
stories,
It's a bit.
those
says.
actually do
Then the
have
remake
endings.
is played by a
So
strong
if you're not
black woman
familiar
that
with
don't
the
need
way
no man.
mainstream superhero comics work, there's always a
Dang
team
it.
with a writer and
Even
artist
in my
who will generally
mule,
work on a
my
series for a
talking
period
mule
of time,
movie, I can't
doing what's
escape
called
a
a
strong black
That
woman.
run can last anywhere from a handful of issues to
And
hundreds,
later we
like Chris
learned
Claremont's
that she
legendary
actually
X-Men
managed to
run that
replace a
lasted 60
ginger.
years.
Like how,
While it
when,
exists
where, we
within
don't
the
know,
larger
but
continuity
somehow.
of the universe and characters, a run will
Like during
generally
casting
read
call,
like its own big story.
you
Like sure, at
fucking
the end, the creative
locks
team
the
puts the toys back in the
ginger,
toy box, since Batman still needs to keep
the
going
ginger
with the
actress that
next
was
team,
auditioning
but that
in like the
Batman
bathroom.
story still gets a conclusion. So when people talk about the MCU and Endgame being an ending, if you're a comic book reader, you know that this was really just the end of a run. The ongoing
Oh,
story
wait, the
continues
battery on my
after it
keyboard is
ends.
dying.
Obviously, Disney and Marvel
That's
were
strange.
never going to let the most successful franchise in film history simply stop. But I think the real mistake they made was not making the next run
Okay.
feel distinct.
I have plugged it
Kevin
in.
Feige should have stepped away there and let
I
someone
don't really
take
want
over
to
for
do
the next
anything.
run to bring in a new creative vision.
Save.
But instead, it largely felt like a story that kept running in place, not knowing it was over. This was the studio that brought comic book storytelling to
Can
cinema,
you return to
but
default
it
view,
forgot a
please?
major part of how comic book storytelling works.
You.
Because yes, you have an ending to the run, but then you need a fresh start with new talents to give audiences a place to jump in. Instead, Marvel Studios just gave existing audiences a place to jump off. And along the way, every other studio and every other franchise tried to replicate this comic book style approach of never-ending stories. Because as Dr. Manhattan once told us, nothing ever ends.
Exalt your fandom. Live your fashion. The 2025 Patrick H. Willems collection. The ordinary becomes spectacular. The Cinephile's mug. Be bold and unafraid to express who you are. Tell the world, I appreciate Val Kilmer more than you.
Unfortunately,
And finally we give you the
I am
novels.
quite afraid to express who I am.
The icon himself.
All the t-shirt designs I have in my head might get me punched.
Well, a few things do. Kinda. So after crunching some numbers and doing my favorite
So
thing,
instead I just
making more
think of weird
spreadsheets,
ways to
I
make
realized that there
cryptic
are
t-shirts that
three reasons
no
that
one
movie
will understand.
franchises
Okay, like what if I made a t-shirt that was like wake up,
They stop making money. As much
like
as we
kind of like
care
Matrix
primarily about
style?
the art here, we can never forget that movies are a business and are primarily
It would just be
designed
like
to make
wacky, like the one
dummy-fit
person that
stacks
reads
of
it
shit.
would be like, oh my
Sequels are
god,
made because they're reliable. They're
I need to
simply
take my
repeating a formula
schizo
that's
meds.
already proven to be successful. So logically, if the movies are making money, keep on making them. Until they stop. Once franchise installments stop being profitable, especially if there's been a decline over multiple installments, studios will usually pull the plug, even when there's been an ongoing story that has not yet been concluded. So apologies to all of the spin-offs that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 set up, because that movie was a critical and commercial disappointment, and so that was it for the series. And that was also it for Garstones, as I like to call Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield's relationship at the time. Okay, reason number 2, a powerful creative lead decides to end it. This is probably the rarest reason, because it means that a single person in a creative role, usually the director or star, has enough power to tell a major studio that their reliable cash cow is going to stop, whether they like it or not. The ultimate recent example is Christopher Nolan deciding to end his Batman series after 3 installments. Obviously, there would go on to be a bunch more Batman movies, but not part of that series, and thus, not quite as successful. Or recently, even though narratively the door is open to return, it looks like Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie made the executive decision to end Mission Impossible. But what happens more often is something like Pirates of the Caribbean, where Gore Verbinski completed the story he set out to tell across 3 installments, but the studio was like, well, whatever, we're gonna keep on making more. And those next movies still made a lot of money, but I don't think anybody likes them. And reason number 3, when the source material runs out. This is the simple one. When a movie franchise faithfully adapts a series of usually books, there is a clear roadmap for how far the story goes. Like there are only 3 Lord of the Rings books, and 7 Harry Potter books, and 3 Hunger Games books, and 4 Twilight books.
I always find it very interesting how, I don't know how anime is done now, but for example how Full Metal Alchemist, the first one was made, where there was like at some point they
ran out of Harry Potter books to adapt.
may have gotten ahead of the manga,
set in the same
and they just fucking went and they just like went off on their own
stopped making money,
and came up with like some like weird ass shit that I actually really like.
The fact is,
but it's like absolutely unhinged.
An odd vehicle for serialized storytelling, which is not to say
Like, to the point where they had to do another version.
Pull it off are very rare. The places where serialized storytelling has always flourished.
As a writer, that has to be the most annoying thing ever, though. When you write like a very succinct, or not succinct, but a complete story, start beginning, start middle end.
On a frequent schedule. Apart from a
you do it, you film it. You know, it's your masterpiece. And then the pub, you know, the studio's like, but we want more. And you're like, but there is no more. There is no more. I finished. Studio's like, well, we bought the rights. And you didn't really look at the paperwork, and we're allowed to make more. Even without you. And you're like, my child, you're ruining my child.
Because of the wait time and cost of each one, movies have to feel more complete than other episodic installments in other mediums. If a film cuts off at the end, announcing the story will conclude in the next film several years later, like Dune Part 1 or Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, that's a pretty big gamble. Because in the film industry,
sequel baiting really hard.
If the first one is a commercial success. So planning far ahead is difficult when you don't know how a movie is going to perform. Like that time they made a movie called Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins, and then it bombed and the adventure never continued.
The adventure never ended.
My favorite example, the Divergent series. They adapted the first 2 books, and then, like every YA series adaptation, they split the final book into 2 films. But part 1 underperformed, and so they just never made part 2. And thus we have a 3-movie series that builds to an ending that never happens. Because cinema wasn't built for this kind of thing. It was made for contained stories that are a couple hours long. But because of the popularity of adaptations and the allure of building across multiple films to a huge finale, people keep forcing it, defibrillating their beloved IP once again and continually ignoring their do not resuscitate form. Look, sequels are just a part of storytelling, as we discussed at length in the last 2 episodes. But there are really 2 different approaches to sequels, the episodic and the saga. Episodic is how most sequels were until the 21st century. That's even how Alien used to be. But now, almost everything wants to be a saga. And when something insists on being a saga, we have to step back and evaluate the entire series as more than just the sum of its parts. What is the larger story being told? Because the more these series drag on and the more installments are added, the less the larger story usually feels like an actual statement and more like a jumbled mess of competing ideas. Like now, 7 movies in. Can you tell me what the story of the Jurassic Park saga is? But right now, there is one movie franchise taking the opposite approach to all the others, going against the grain of 21st century franchise trends. And it's actually Alien's sister series, Predator. From the beginning, Predator always had a looser approach than other franchises. There were no recurring characters, no primary writer or director overseeing multiple installments, and despite John McTiernan's original film being a masterpiece, see our video about it, Predator was never given the same level of prestige and respect as Alien, which sometimes I think could be a good thing. It kind of takes the pressure and expectation off of it. The sequels were very much a mixed bag, but in the past 3 years, the series has transformed. It started with 2022's Prey, director Dan Trachtenberg's extremely cool revival that placed a predator in 1700s North America, where it faced off against a young Comanche woman. It was a totally self-contained movie that simply applied the basic idea of the predator to a new setting with new characters. The movie was a hit with audiences and critics, but instead of doing the natural thing and continuing the story, finding some convoluted way to have Amber Midthunder's Naru team up with Arnold Schwarzenegger's Dutch, Trachtenberg did something totally different. He made 2 more Predator movies, both released this year. The first, Predator Killer of Killers, is an animated anthology film with multiple stories spanning over 1,000 years. And the second, Predator Badlands, which is actually in theaters right now, is a blockbuster action movie set entirely on an alien planet hundreds of years in the future with, for the first time, a predator as the protagonist. So like...
It's super ugly. And it's really weird.
Protagonist. Incredibly, none of these movies are sequels
says.
to each other. There is no overarching story and no recurring characters. And it's genuinely refreshing to see a movie franchise not care about doing a multi-film saga full of sequel teases and instead opt for standalone stories. But it also feels uniquely cinematic instead of copying TV or comic books. Each film is very different, with totally different protagonists and settings. Lore and continuity don't really matter. There's no homework required here. You don't need to watch any other movies or TV shows to understand what's happening. You can watch any of these movies in any order and be fine and have a great time. They're just set in the same universe, they involve this one alien race called the Yautja and a handful of recurring tropes, and that's it. Badlands is even technically a crossover with the Alien franchise, since it features androids from the Weyland-Yutani Corporation that originated in those movies. But if you've never seen an Alien movie, it doesn't matter. There are no appearances by xenomorphs or any legacy characters, and it's not setting up some future Avengers-style crossover movie. Yes, I am aware of the title of this episode and how I have just praised a franchise that has literally released 2 movies in the last 5 months. Clearly, that shit ain't ending.
Okay,
but
now the
Star
beak
Wars
area.
Or Alien, it's not running in place,
Not that complicated.
of the past
Not
to
that
diminishing
complicated.
returns.
Not super
It's
fancy.
not demanding that audiences sign up for another decade-long saga, building to some movie version of a season finale. It's just a collection of movies that happen to be set in the same world, exploring the different things that can be done within this franchise. Each one is doing
Doesn't
something
even
new,
look like it's a different
and
color,
even if it's a
really?
period piece, is moving the franchise forward. And each movie has an ending, not a setup for a sequel. And yes, even though you could read the end of Badlands as a sequel setup, Trachtenberg has clarified that it's just a fun twist at the end. There is no intention of making a direct sequel. So right now, incredibly, Predator of all things, other than maybe Rian Johnson's Benoit Blanc series, is doing the best job of any franchise at giving us classic episodic sequels. There's a legendary unmade comic book from the late 1980s known as Twilight of the Superheroes. It was to be written by Alan Moore, and all that exists is the proposal he submitted. In it, he writes, "One of the things that prevents superhero stories from ever attaining the status of true modern myths or legends is that they are open-ended. An essential quality of a legend is that the events in it are clearly defined in time. Robin Hood, King Arthur, Davy Crockett, or Sherlock Holmes, you cannot apply it to most comic book characters because, in order to meet the commercial demands of a continuing series, they can never have a resolution. Instead, they find it difficult to embrace any of the changes in life that the passage of time brings about for these very same reasons, making them finally less than fully human, as well as falling far short of true myth. By providing a fitting and effective capstone to the Batman legend, it makes it just that, a legend rather than an endlessly meandering continuity." Moore wanted to give the DC Comics universe an ending. Maybe not a definitive death for each of the superheroes, but a glimpse of their later days. A resolution where this never-ending story can end up. and in that resolution, a chance to say something about what this whole story has meant. The series never ended up happening due to Moore's falling out with DC over the rights to Watchmen, but this idea is something that many people, myself included, have thought about for a long time. Because as much as it's great to get more of the stories and characters you love, as much as I love that the Marvel and DC universes will continue ad infinitum, I also love endings. To quote the intro to Vulture's feature, the 101 Greatest Endings in Movie History, the ending is arguably the most important part of any film. How a filmmaker wants you to feel when the lights go up is often the key to what that picture was really about. The ending is where the character's journey concludes, where their arc becomes complete, where they make their final choice. This is where the storyteller makes their final statement. In a film, it's the final image they leave us with before the credits roll, the final words that are spoken.
I think this just might be my masterpiece.
So at this point, what is the ending to Star Wars? For decades, it was Return of the Jedi, but then we got the sequel trilogy, with Episode 9 promising the true ending to the saga. But then that movie was so universally considered disappointing that Lucasfilm has announced another movie following Rey after the events of The Rise of Skywalker,
But who wants to follow
if
Rey?
it actually gets made, will
Follow anyone
I guess,
else.
be the actual ending to the series? And yes, I recognize the hypocrisy of me in the last episode advocating for Steven Soderbergh's other potential Star Wars ending to be made. I would genuinely love a better ending than the one we got. But you gotta wonder, if they make it, will that actually be it? Probably not. And so in the end, taken as one saga, what is Star Wars about? It's hard to tell at this point, and over time, it's only gonna get harder. In all this talk about the lack of endings and stories continuing until the end of time, there's a recent comic book miniseries that offers a different idea. One that initially seemed like the most cynical of corporate-mandated IP crossovers. I'm talking
Wallace Lovecraft says.
about
Love the
Aliens
Godo work.
versus Avengers, a product of the
Godo
Disney
work.
Corporation
Thought
acquiring
you wanted to
both
say
Marvel
Gudo,
and 20th
Gudo
Century
work.
Fox, thus owning their libraries of characters. Written by Jonathan Hickman and drawn by Izad Ribic, this comic turned out to
I mean, I
not
think it
only
was
not
pretty
be terrible,
okay
but
work this
actually
stream.
is like truly incredible. But more significantly, it also does what both
Only
the
a little
Alien
bit
movie
of
franchise and
mischievous
Marvel Comics are unable to do.
non-working. Just a little teensy
Provide
bit.
an ending. Probably like most readers, I was expecting this comic to have the most obvious lazy premise, where like a spaceship with a xenomorph on it crashes into New York and then the Avengers have to fight a bunch of aliens. But that's not it at all. As if knowing that's what we were expecting, Hickman's opening line of the book literally is, quote, "It's disappointing, isn't it? To expect one thing and instead get another entirely." So instead of that lazy premise, the series actually takes place decades in the future of the Marvel Universe, when Tony Stark is an old man in a wheelchair, the Fantastic Four have all died, and Miles Morales is in his late 40s. It's already the last days of the Marvel Universe as we know it, and then we learn that in the 1,000 years after the events of Alien Covenant, David, Michael Fassbender's sociopathic android, has been spreading the xenomorph infestation not just through the galaxy, but through the multiverse, and finally arrives in the Marvel Universe. Earth and humanity are basically wiped out in a single issue, until all that remains are a small group
Wallace
of
Lovecraft
survivors
says.
with Black Panther,
Alien Covenant mixed with
Wolverine,
Marvel.
Emma Frost, Miles Morales,
WTF.
going through space on a spaceship.
This
is
the video
end
is
of
more about like
mankind
franchises
and the Marvel
and
Universe, and they are determined to
that's
bring
kinda
an
cool, but I
end
don't
to
like
these
it.
aliens as well.
I don't
it's a
see
self-contained story
any
that actually gives an ending to both the Marvel
positives in it.
Universe and the world of Alien. And it's more ambitious than almost anything that's been done with either property in decades. It feels like a definitive statement on both franchises, and honestly, if this were the actual ending to both, I would be satisfied. Hickman and Ribic could have easily played the hits and been just fine, but they chose to look forward and do something new. Obviously, this is not in continuity for either regular series, it's basically like a what-if story, but it shows what can be possible even in the cynical world of corporate storytelling. Look, I realize this is an argument I can't really win. Like I mentioned earlier, film is a business, and some guy on the internet is never going to convince studio executives to stop greenlighting sequels. No matter how much my head is glowing,
I still think his head is
is a
shaped a
visual
bit
representation of
strangely.
powerful mental processing. I am not
Cinderlink.
anti-franchise. That should be clear by now. These are a part of cinema, and plenty of them rock. Like just a few minutes ago, I was raving about how I want to see like a dozen more Predator movies. In the past 20 years, it really did get exciting to see movies finally faithfully adapt multi-part stories. Something we had
So
never
his
really
name
seen
is
before.
Patrick H. Willems.
I think the novelty has worn off a bit. Stories are special because they're finite. They end. Let comic books be comic books, and let's let movies be movies. And
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, like another video he has is Jaws. What if the mechanical shark never broke down?
Paid to say this.
Like, I didn't even know that the mechanical
awesome,
shark broke
and if
down.
at least one person reads it because of this video, I'll be happy. And speaking of endings, our next episode is our season finale. That's right, this season has gone for 2 full years, and it is finally coming to an end with the next episode. And
so a weird thing happened recently. It was somewhere around mid-April of this year that someone texted me and asked me whether I watched the newest season of Black Mirror, and I responded with, the newest season of what? Now the thing about this little story is that it is very much unlike me. I used to love Black Mirror. As a science fiction TV show, it was exactly what I liked, and usually for shows that I like, I put on reminders I eagerly wait. Speaking of reminders, here's me reminding you to go subscribe to my channel.
Dang, a lack of waterproof machinery.
And if you don't subscribe to my channel, you will be forced to declare bankruptcy in the next 5 months. Yeah, that's confirmed. Anyway, back to the video. And it is not like I didn't know that the 7th season of Black Mirror was happening.
Wait, but I did not know
I just didn't care.
that it
They
was
even tried to
broken.
bait me with the USS Callister, which I didn't find myself caring for too much either way. You may see the word downfall in the title and raise an eyebrow, because the downfall that Black Mirror experienced isn't really as tragic as some other TV shows might have experienced. It still has a lot of people watching, so it's not like it's on the brink of being cancelled. But you can tell that it is not exactly the powerhouse that it used to be. Some of it is normal. TV shows lose viewership as they go on. It's a general trend. But the drop in interest in Black Mirror, if anything, is first of all completely unnecessary, and second of all completely self-inflicted. So where exactly the show went wrong? The fact is that Black Mirror has become a bit of a flop. There are 2 distinct eras that Black Mirror as a show can be divided into. That is the first 4 seasons and whatever came after that. Some people like to be more purist about it and separate the first 2 seasons from others because that is when Netflix became involved. I personally don't subscribe to that type of thinking, but y'all do you. So after the heights that the first season gave us, we get season 5. Season 5 has 66% from critics and 53% approval rating from the audience on Rotten Tomatoes, just so you have an idea of how it was received. It has 3 episodes in total, and they are certainly episodes. It is this season that decides to show that the show doesn't really have that many ideas to carry the show anymore. So the first episode is called Striking Vipers and focuses on 2 dudes engaging in some gaming online through these little thingies on their temples that are basically entryway into virtual reality gaming, but futuristic and more immersive. I will be honest, I feel very indifferent towards this episode. Cool concept, interesting idea, serviceable execution. I am not shaking at it. It doesn't really give me much, but I didn't hate it. Some people apparently hate it because it's too gay. And honestly, grow up. But then we get to the second episode of the season called Smithereens, and this is where things get kinda wonky. Now this is the best episode of the worst season in the show, and it is not as high of a praise as you think it is. Smithereens is an episode where the show really just craps at the very bottom of the barrel, and retrieves the good old tried and tested concept of phones and social media kinda bad. It is a slight oversimplification, but the execution of this thematic choice is what really ruins the episode for me. me. I feel like the episode can be a bit
Okay,
overhated sometimes as boring, but
I
I
have
actually
worked
like
for
the
about
dramatic
3
build-up. You
hours.
see this dude be
I'll
out
give
there
it
doing Uber
another
for some initially undisclosed reasons
struggling
next
at
to this very
30
specific
minutes
area. Then we find out that he was trying to snatch someone
before I
from
go
a
to bed.
company called Smithereen that is responsible for the social media thing. And then he kidnaps
But it
a
really will
person
be
to try and
struggling
talk to the
because
CEO of the
I
company. It is a
crave
hostage situation that keeps developing through the
the
episode,
nothingness
and
of
things are
sleep.
relatively okay. But then, after the entire episode of build-up, the main dude does finally do the little twist reveal moment that he has been building up to. And do you know what he says?
It was very quiet. On my phone lights up. And I check it. Just glance at it, you know. Little notification thing saying. You just glanced at it. That's all the time it took.
And it could have been at least a few different things, but this episode chose the most out there explanation that was available. And I do not know how to phrase it elegantly, so I will just say it, it's dumb. It's really dumb. Yeah, they really thought they were cooking with this one, but the pan was empty and the stove was not even on. Does this guy not know the general rules surrounding the use of phones while driving? What about maybe silencing your phone and then putting it away just to keep your eyes on the road? If you think that this is somehow meant to symbolize the man dodging responsibility, no it is not. The script instead tries to make a point how social media is made addictive because of profit. Which is kinda true. It's not a false point to make, but it's this moment where the episode just decides to decrease its IQ to room temperature, and it just ruins whatever this episode has to say. It isn't like there is nothing towards the direction.
You know, I
of being
legitimately
interesting.
forgot
The
that
one
this
thing that is kind of
video
insightful
was
is how
about
social
Black
media
Mirror.
company of the episode was way ahead of the police in profiling the main
I'm
dude.
so out of
But that is also
so out
a
of
bit of a duh. Sure, it steals other data, but some of that data you give it to yourself, fam. And it's not like they use it for a nefarious purpose. They try to defuse the guy. So whatever they try imply here isn't really as impactful as it could be. This episode is probably a hit with Facebook moms who share Minion memes. So at least I guess there's that. I imagine that if this episode came out a few years before it did, it would have been something more interesting, maybe? And again, this is the best episode of the season. So now let's talk about the worst, at least according to popular opinion. So the third episode of season 5 is titled Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2. Yeah. It's the one that has Miley Cyrus in it. Now, apparently some people actively dislike this particular episode because Miley's involved in it. It is a pretty dumb reason if I'm being honest, especially since there is a plethora of valid, based reasons not to like this episode. For the record, I don't hate the episode, nor did I hate rewatching it as much as I thought I would. I find it hard to bring myself to hate an episode that depicts a young woman being trapped, used, and abused by someone else for profit. There's a lot of sympathy to be had here for the main pop star depicted, and I also think that Miley being the one to play her adds a lot of credibility to the performance. I also kinda like the dynamic between sisters Jack and Rachel. They actually felt like teenagers, which is usually not the case for TV shows. Now, with all of that being said, this episode is just kind of whack. I don't hate it, but I certainly don't like it. It is mid. It feels a bit like nothing. Now, some of it is the fact that there are already a lot of stories that touch upon similar themes and beats. It is not very unique and original. It doesn't exactly offer something unheard of or unseen technology-wise, nor does it actually do anything with that technology, except for that stupid song from Dreams Extractor thing that they put on Ashley when she's in a coma, but even that isn't really an episode saver. It also doesn't help that basically every character is just some sort of a cliche. Ashley, for example, boils down to her just being a young woman who has to pretend and wants to do something deeper, which is fine I guess for the plot, but it doesn't really bring anything of substance to the table. The sisters are also pretty cliche. The main villain is pretty one-note evil. There is just not much really to grab onto. Each character has just enough personality to supply the episode with plot. Then we also get the general tone of the episode, which is just a dumb movie tone. One of the main defenses for this tone is that it is supposed to mimic Disney Channel movies. Oh, so you're telling me that this was cringe on purpose? So here is where I usually stand on ideas like that. Just because you do something with intention, it doesn't mean it will always work. It may be in theme, but that isn't an automatic pass. If someone doesn't like it, it doesn't mean that they misunderstand it. You can completely see the full picture and still not like it. You want to mimic Disney movies, cool I guess, but Disney Channel movies also tend to be kinda bland and one-note and corny. So you can see how that doesn't exactly lend to being an interesting exploration in science fiction. And I dislike this sort of defense because it is not like it's impossible to come up with something that is in theme of that, but also in theme of Black Mirror. Flip the script, subvert genres or tropes, show a twisted version of a Disney movie, corrupt the concept, pay homage where is needed, but make it Black Mirror. Defaulting to dumb tropes to make this point is just not the most elegant solution in this situation. Yes, you can say that Black Mirror is this or that, but you can clearly tell that people willing to view this episode as Black Mirror and actually hold it in higher esteem are severely outnumbered by people who do not, which is where I guess the biggest issue comes in, that this episode feels the most disconnected from Black Mirror so far in the release order. Say whatever the hell you will, but Black Mirror did dig itself this particular hole of having people expect certain things from it. It has a very specific identity attached to its name. There's a reason why there's at least one person saying, "This is like an episode of Black Mirror," when there's even a mildly futuristic technology being introduced. Yes, my friends, I am coming to the astounding, never heard of before, groundbreaking conclusion that Black Mirror Season 5 introduces identity issues for the show. This season, when criticized, is usually said to be unlike Black Mirror. The biggest sins that the season commits, besides questionable writing, is that it doesn't live up to the standard and the expectations set up by previous seasons. It doesn't mess with your brain the same way some of the previous episodes would. This season is also what starts a pattern within the show that I don't particularly like, which is the show basically taking exactly what is happening now and just covering that in quite thinly veiled attempts at Black Mirror. It is a bit hard to explain and we will get to it, but you can see it with Rachel, Jack, and Ashley too, where the show just takes something that exists in real life and just makes it that into a story, but doesn't really add any meat to it, let's say. So this is a critical moment for the show. This season gets panned. Fans are, well, not big fans of it. The people behind the show can choose to listen and improve, which is a sensible option. But you can guess by the title of the video that the show indeed did not choose the sensible option. Actually, it kinda doubled down. There is an entire 4-year gap between seasons 5 and 6, the biggest that the show has ever experienced between seasons. A thing that rhymes with Verona Kairos happened, and we all know how well that went. Anyhow, the year of 2023 comes, and there is a new season. So the 6th season comes out with 5 episodes in total, an upgrade from the 3 last time around. So you would think that yes, there would be more content and surely the long gap would help the show get back on track. So let's talk about the first 3 episodes. These 3 episodes kind of remind me of the 3 episodes of season 5, which, if you couldn't tell, is not exactly a compliment. The first of the bunch is an episode called Joan is Awful. The general premise is that a streaming service that is a knockoff of Netflix is using a woman named Joan's life and producing a TV show out of it using some very advanced AI. If I was to summarize my general thoughts, I would say that this episode made me feel the exact same way as the Miley Cyrus episode did. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. I feel entirely indifferent towards it. What this episode essentially does is it picks a few hot button technologies that already exist, use them in this very absurd way to make a very revolutionary statement of terms and conditions can be bad and oh my god no, artificial intelligence. On top of that, its tone is more so comedic than serious. The whole episode is this heightened reality because we find out that what we are actually witnessing is generated and we are just shown a level within the larger simulation, which would be fine. Science fiction isn't a stranger to exaggeration to make a point, but it also results in a lot of plot holes and underdeveloped script. The internal logic of this episode is non-existent. It basically relies on the streaming service being this omniscient being that somehow can spy on its target Joan through the little phone thing and manage to glean this perfectly accurate picture of every moment of her life that they can just then turn into a generated TV show. It's nonsense. But you know what? I can get over that. But what I cannot get over is just how shallow the episode is. If you use such a rather basic subject matter as AI and generative content and stuff like that, at least add meat to it. It is not the first time that Black Mirror dips its toes into some rather unexciting waters in regards to subject matter. I kinda dished on Smithereens for how it dealt with social media as a topic, but we can pull up 2 other episodes that dealt with it in more interesting ways. That is Nosedive and my absolute favorite episode of the entire show, Hated in the Nation. Both of them deal with social media. Nosedive exaggerates it to an extreme and makes it the basis of their way of living. Creates a sort of panopticon, except you are both the prisoner and the officer. You both observe others and are observed, therefore you punish and are punished if you act a certain way that is not accepted. Hated in the Nation uses social media as a bit of a weapon with #death2, but it also introduces another technology, the robo-bees, that are also weaponized. Both episodes use the very basic topic of social media, but they spin it to great thematic effect. Both also do a sufficient job at showing the consequences of such technologies and what kind of a world these scenarios would create. They add a lot of substance to make things work. Joan is Awful, however, chooses to slack on this essential world building and substance, and instead goes for a pretty shallow story. The one thing that just kept taking me out of it is just how everyone went along with the AI-generated TV show. Not a single character except Joan and Salma Hayek raised an eyebrow to the shit that is shown to be happening with Streamberry, which is is odd. We see none of how exactly this technology affects anything besides Joan. Does the society that we see in the episode just accept AI use as common knowledge and therefore are desensitized to it? But then, why the hell is Joan so surprised and clueless when this happens to her? The episode just lacks any sort of grounding to make it actually meaningful. It just feels like the creator had a lit idea and wanted to try it out just for fun. Then we have the third episode of the season called Beyond the Sea. It has two astronauts up in space who have the ability to operate machine replicas of themselves remotely back on Earth. Dope concept, not very profound
what I got done so
execution. The
far.
whole episode basically boils down to one of the astronauts going
Just
to after
playing
experiencing a huge
around right
traumatic event
now
and thus
with
lashing out because
this
he's trapped
personal
in
project.
space. Not a
But
very unique
I
story,
should probably
even
just
if the
head off to
circumstances
bed.
around it are made unique by the technology. The episode kind of
Because
reminds
I'm
me of Crocodile
tired.
in a sense that technology is not the central point of the episode. It's just kind of there to spice
Feel
things
like I might
up,
as
but
well
at least
sleep.
Crocodile chooses a far more interesting
I
plot
don't
for
think I'll
itself,
get
while
particularly
Beyond the Sea
much
chooses
done
a
in the
domestic
next
drama
20
that
or
just
so
amounts to
minutes.
an ending that is meh. This episode just kinda gave me
But
nothing if I'm
Querrieoh
being
says.
honest. Then we have the second episode of the season, which is called Loch Henry. I do not really have much quarrel with this particular
Shirison
episode
says.
per se,
Oh.
but it also
Have a
didn't
good night,
exactly
Eve.
blow me away. It is about a dude
You
and his
too,
girlfriend who
rest
decide to go
well.
back to his
Try and
hometown
fix
and
your
find an
positioning or
opportunity to make a
whatever
documentary
made your
about a
back
local town
rock,
mystery.
you
I feel
know.
like it is a nice episode. The messaging of the
Oh
episode
no, they're
didn't really
overlapping. That's so
profoundly
good.
shaken,
I
maybe
need to
because
put
I
one
just
in one
already
side
held
and
the
one on the
belief
other
that true
side.
crime genre
Obviously.
and profiteering off of
Why did I
tragedies
not
is
do
not a
that?
very nice way to go about living one's life. I can see how people may watch this and might take something away from it, so you know, at least there's that. Some people, however, are adamant that Loch Henry
Matrix
does not
says.
feel like Black Mirror.
YouTube
But I
chat
think
check.
we need to discuss this ever inconclusive question of what exactly is Black Mirror. Is Black Mirror this or that? Or is it the friends that we made along the way? Well, the fun thing about Black Mirror is that you will never get a conclusive, unified answer as to what exactly it is. It's an anthology, and it encompasses a lot of different tones and feels and plots and subjects. Some people
Good
can get a bit
night.
heated about
See
their
you
perception of the show, which is
tomorrow.
fine. I think that there is really plenty of completely valid answers